The first time Kyle Walker met Tyler Walker, it was raining. The weather forecast the night before had called for thunderstorms, so Kyle always kept an umbrella in his car. Rainwater dripped steadily off the black canopy, splashing straight down onto his shoes and soaking the cuffs of his pants, spreading into dark ripples. Tyler stood under the narrow awning of the funeral home, wearing a thin, worn-out jacket. A dark blue backpack, far too big for him, hung off one shoulder, nearly swallowing half his frame. In his hands, he clutched his father's urn. "You done? Follow me." Tyler had just turned 18, 9 years younger than Kyle, but he looked malnourished, barely reaching Kyle's shoulder. His body was thin and fragile, his soft hair not quite black but more like a hazel brown. His eyes were clear, strikingly similar to Linda's, except without her stubbornness, like two glass marbles, pure and untarnished. Maybe it was because his father had just died, but Tyler looked dazed. The wind outside was fierce, carrying thick sheets of rain that hit his upturned nose. He glanced toward Kyle, holding the urn in his left hand while his right hand moved quickly through a series of signs. Kyle didn't understand any of it. "What's that supposed to mean?" He frowned. "You can't talk?" Tyler pressed his lips together, his face pale. He tried signing again, but the man in front of him clearly had no patience to watch. So he gave up, drooping like a scolded puppy, clutching the urn as he followed. The black umbrella was large enough for both of them. Kyle was much taller, with broad shoulders. When Tyler stood close, the rain couldn't touch him. But maybe the proximity made Kyle uncomfortable, because he silently tilted the umbrella toward Tyler while deliberately shifting his own body away. Tyler's fingers, wrapped around the urn, had lost all color. He wanted to tell his brother that he wasn't dirty, that there was no need to keep his distance. But then he thought better of it. Signing would be useless anyway, Kyle wouldn't understand. Kyle's car was warm and spacious. Tyler sat in the back seat, unsure of what to do. Muddy water from his shoes had stained the floor mat, and for a moment his heart seized. He stayed completely still. His throat had problems, he'd never been able to speak. But his hearing was sharp. The car hesitated before starting, and from the driver's seat came the click of a lighter. Soon, the smell of cigarette smoke reached him. Tyler was extremely sensitive to that smell. Before his father died, he'd breathed it in every day at home, mixed with the sharp stench of alcohol. Their apartment had smelled of nothing else but smoke and liquor. Kyle's breathing was shallow but steady. Smoking seemed to calm some emotion in him. He only smoked half the cigarette before stubbing it out. "My name is Kyle Walker," he said suddenly. The man in the rearview mirror had a strikingly handsome face, deep-set eyes, nothing like the memory Tyler had of his mother. He couldn't find a single resemblance. Tyler nodded very slightly, still holding the urn, and signed his own name. "Do you not want to talk, or can you not talk?" Tyler lowered his eyes, fished his phone out of his pocket. It was an old model, a hand-me-down from his father, with a cracked corner of the screen. It always took him a long time to type out a complete sentence. He held the screen up for Kyle to see. "My name is Tyler Walker. I'm 18. There's something wrong with my throat. I can't speak. I'm sorry." Kyle stared at the cracked phone screen for a long time. Then he turned away and said quietly, "No one told me that." He started the engine, turned the wheel. His voice, roughened by cigarettes, came out a little hoarse. "I told you my name is Kyle Walker. Do you know who I am?" Tyler's eyelashes were dotted with rain, wet and sticky. He kept his expression blank, trying to seem natural through small movements. He typed again. "Yes. You're my brother." Kyle stared at those words for a very long time. The cracked lower left corner of the screen spread like a stain into his chest. He turned at the next intersection, the turn signal clicked rhythmically, tearing through the silence in the car. Tyler wasn't sure if he'd said something wrong, until he saw Kyle's reflection in the rearview mirror give a faint smile. But the curl of his lips sent a chill through the otherwise warm car. Kyle had joined the Walker family in the last days of the year when he was 9 years old. He'd forgotten his original name by then. His birthday was chosen for him by Richard Walker. For many years after entering the Walker household, he never saw Linda. Not until his 18th birthday party, when Linda showed up looking gaunt and haggard. Her hair had grown very long, like a bundle of dry grass. Her hollow eyes had turned into barren land, she couldn't even shed tears anymore. She kept saying, "I was wrong. I was wrong. Dad, please forgive me." The guests whispered behind their hands. Kyle stood silently beside the custom-made birthday cake, watching Linda grovel and beg. She said she regretted everything. She said she would never disobey again. She begged Richard to let her come home. The hem of her pure white dress was stained with mud, like the first half of her life. But even if you washed it, it would come clean. Only that dress she wore back to the Walker house would end up in the trash. Just like Tyler. She hadn't brought Tyler with her. She'd left him behind in that dark, cramped rental room. Every year after that, no one in the Walker family mentioned the child Linda had given birth to. It was as if he'd never existed. But Linda would always call Tyler's name in the middle of her nightmares, waking up with tears streaming down her face. Tyler's birth was probably much like Kyle's, or perhaps even less worthy. His biological father didn't even give him a last name. Linda gave birth to him but only wanted to get rid of him. Rich people could be just as miserable. When Richard told Kyle to go pick up the boy, it didn't surprise him. Linda's mental state was deteriorating day by day, nobody knew when she would finally break. Kyle didn't share a drop of Walker blood, he was an outsider. The day Tyler's biological father died, Richard received the news. Kyle didn't think Tyler would take anything from him. He'd started with nothing, and he had no desire to fight Tyler over things that didn't belong to him anyway. But what Kyle hadn't expected was that Tyler was mute. Born that way, it seemed. Fragile, skinny, like a piece of glass that would shatter if you touched it. And yet Tyler called him brother, so innocently it was almost laughable. Richard had no intention of letting Tyler move into the main house. Linda's condition was too unstable, and she didn't even know that her son had been brought back. Kyle arranged for Tyler to stay in a downtown apartment. Outside, the rain continued. Droplets hit the glass window, streaking down and blurring the swaying tree shadows. Tyler held up his phone again. Am I staying here alone? The rainy daylight was dim. The living room light fell on Tyler's pale face, and Kyle could see the fine hairs on his cheeks. You don't have anywhere else to go, Kyle said flatly, his voice cold. You don't have a second option. Tyler's fingers trembled slightly around his phone, but he controlled it well. He pulled the phone back, still cradling the urn in his arms. Find a place to put that thing yourself. Tyler froze, then looked down without a word. His dark eyelashes clumped together. He started typing again. Will I be all by myself here? Light and shadow shifted at the bottom of Kyle's eyes, creating an illusion of something that might have been hope. Who else do you want here? Tyler bit his lip and shook his head. Out of habit, he began to sign, his fingers were long and slender, very pale, still damp from the rain. The pads of his fingers were pink. Kyle didn't even look. I don't understand that, he said. Tyler's hands froze in midair, then slowly lowered. He made no more sound. Kyle left. His shadow stretched long behind him. Tyler stood there, stomping his own foot over it a few times. His eyes had been stung by the wind all day and were starting to ache. He rubbed them until they turned red. The next week passed without a single visit from Kyle. The next time Kyle saw Tyler was to help him transfer schools. Before that, Kyle had met with Richard Walker. Richard had no intention of seeing Tyler himself. According to him, bringing Tyler back, arranging a place to live, and waiting until Linda was in a better state to meet him was enough. Still, Richard was surprised to learn that Tyler was mute. Can't speak? The old man's legs weren't what they used to be. He leaned habitually on his cane, the wrinkles on his hands like rings on tree roots. The household staff knew never to appear during their conversations, never to make a sound. Kyle watched Richard set his cane beside the coffee table and lower himself slowly into his chair. Born that way, Kyle said. Richard's hand paused over his teacup for a long moment. Then he said casually, I see. Make some time, take him to a doctor. Kyle agreed, said goodbye, and turned to leave. Richard coughed twice and called him back. Kyle turned his head. How old? He didn't need to say a name. They both knew who. 18. Richard waved his hand dismissively and poured out the remaining tea. Fine. Go on about your business. As Kyle walked out of the study, Linda was being taken outside for some sun by her nurse. She was thinner than she'd been 2 years ago, her once delicate, beautiful face had deteriorated sharply with her youth. The marks of time were vivid on her. Her empty eyes looked at Kyle several times. Leaving already? She sat in her wheelchair, her skin unnaturally white. Yes. Linda fell silent and closed her eyes. Kyle drove out through the main gate. That house was like an antique clock, every day it chimed on schedule, then returned to silence. Tyler attended a special school. When Kyle stepped out of the administration building, Tyler was standing at the door, his back against the wall, wearing that dark blue backpack. When he saw Kyle, he followed. No one spoke until they reached the car. The day after tomorrow, I'll take you to your new school. Tomorrow, wait for me at home. Tyler signed to Kyle, then realized he wouldn't understand, so he pulled out his phone. Where are we going? He still called Kyle brother. Tyler really did look a lot like Linda in her youth. Kyle looked into his eyes and said, the hospital. Tyler's fine eyebrows drew together. His cheekbones were sharp, his features delicate, and yet he was mute. There's nothing wrong with me. Kyle didn't argue. He told Tyler to get in the car. You don't have a choice. This is an order. Kyle always spoke with a certain distance, but that distance didn't feel cold to Tyler. He'd faced far worse malice and rejection growing up. If you want to be part of the Walker family, you can't stay mute forever. Tyler bit his lip and held the phone up again. But I can't talk. It can't be fixed. We'll see after the exam. Tyler didn't get into the car. He kept typing, then tapped Kyle on the back from behind, looking anxious. Brother, do I really have to go? The Walker family Kyle spoke of was even more foreign to Tyler than the apartment he'd lived in for the past week. He'd almost forgotten what his mother looked like. All he remembered was the white dress she'd worn the day she left. She hadn't wanted to take him. She'd called him a burden. Her face had been streaked with tears. The last time she'd said his name, Tyler. Don't be my son. He'd signed to Linda, begging to go with her. But her unyielding back had turned into a door that shut him out. His mother didn't love him. So he had an older brother. Maybe she loved him, that was why she didn't love Tyler. Not congenital? The hospital examination room was blindingly white. Tyler stood off to one side, clutching his backpack to his chest, head slightly bowed. His slender neck looked like it might snap if bent any further. What do you mean? Kyle asked. The doctor explained that Tyler's vocal cords were only slightly underdeveloped, not to the point of complete silence. The cause of his muteness was most likely psychological, acquired rather than innate. A psychiatrist might be more helpful. Walking out of the hospital, Kyle was very quiet. Tyler didn't understand why they'd insisted on this exam. He'd been mute for 18 years, and no one had ever wanted him to speak before. He quickened his pace to catch up with Kyle and tapped him lightly on the shoulder from behind. Kyle was tall, Tyler guessed at least a head taller. Maybe that was normal adult height. Tyler himself was just underdeveloped, forced to crane his neck to look up at Kyle. Kyle watched as Tyler unzipped his backpack. That dark blue backpack was always on Tyler's back. Kyle had no idea what was inside. Worn and faded, just like Tyler. Tyler pulled out his phone, typed quickly, and held it up. On the screen were 2 words, Big Brother. Don't call me that, Kyle said coldly. Tyler asked why, typing again. You are my brother. Why can't I call you that? Kyle had no way to explain it to an 18-year-old mute boy. They shared no blood. The only reason Kyle had the Walker name was because Linda, against Richard's wishes, had run away with someone else while pregnant with Tyler. Kyle's entire existence was Richard's way of showing Linda that anyone could be a Walker, anyone could inherit the family. Tyler received no answer. He followed Kyle into the car. There was a faint fragrance inside the car. Tyler sat like a wooden puppet, clutching his backpack and phone. Kyle didn't go upstairs with him. Tyler signed goodbye. Kyle didn't understand, so he ignored him. A housekeeper had been hired, patient, kind. She cooked for Tyler, talked to him. But he couldn't respond. His phone was his only tool for communication. Kyle disappeared for another week. The third time they met was on a weekend. Tyler was doing laundry on the balcony. There's a washing machine. You know that, right? Kyle leaned against the glass balcony door, hands in his pockets. Water dripped from between Tyler's fingers. Tyler shook his hands dry and signed to Kyle. I don't understand that, Kyle said, frowning. 3 days. I'm taking you to the new school. Tyler pulled his hands back, clenching them into silent fists. He wrung out the clothes, placed them in a clean basin beside him, and brushed past Kyle to find his phone in the living room. Do I really have to go to the new school? Kyle gave him the same answer as always. Tyler didn't have a choice. The truth was, Tyler didn't understand. He still hadn't seen his mother. If she didn't like him, why had she agreed to bring him back? And his brother didn't like him either. He felt sad. Nobody liked Tyler. His hands were still wet. The phone screen blurred. He wiped it on his shirt and handed the finished message to Kyle. Okay. I understand. I'll wait for you at home, brother. He'd called Kyle brother again. Kyle wanted to ask, how had he ended up as Tyler's guardian anyway? I told you not to call me that. I'm not your brother. The laundry was hung up on the balcony. Tyler had nothing else to do, so he pulled over a low stool and sat there, chin resting in both hands. Before the housekeeper came back, he tried to open his mouth. His dry, tight throat choked off any sound. The breath from his lungs died somewhere in his throat. Those two words, big brother, disappeared without a trace. He was just a mute boy. Incurable. Brother, I'm naturally very quiet. It's not like I can talk anyway. Kyle glanced at the phone screen, then back at the road. He didn't respond. The new school had been chosen by Richard Walker. Kyle was only responsible for getting Tyler enrolled. The apartment was less than 5 miles away. Kyle left behind a bank card and didn't visit again. The next time they met was because the school called. The teacher on the other end sounded uncomfortable. She said Tyler had gotten into some trouble with his classmates. Tyler's pale, thin face was bruised, his brow bone swollen, the corner of his mouth bleeding. He looked pathetic. Kyle had never imagined Tyler would get into a fight. The other 3 kids were big and strong. Kyle didn't think Tyler had stood a chance. He made one demand, a public apology. Otherwise, the parents of those 3 could come deal with him directly. And you teachers, your supervision has been inadequate. Don't you share some of the responsibility? He'd paid too much tuition for Tyler to come here and get beaten up. The dean broke out in a cold sweat, bowing and scraping, promising that the matter would be handled properly. Tyler was still wearing that old, dark blue backpack, waiting for Kyle. His hands twisted together anxiously, his eyes red as a rabbit's. On the drive home, he didn't make a sound. Not that he could, anyway. Kyle didn't think much of it. He told the housekeeper to keep an eye on Tyler for the next couple of days. Take a week off. Let yourself heal before going back. Tyler's long, dark eyelashes were thick as fans, the rims of his eyes flushed red. His soft hair fell over his slender neck, which was covered in scratches. Kyle left. The housekeeper finally got a good look at Tyler's swollen face and said anxiously, "Let me boil an egg for you, honey. Roll it over the bruise, it'll bring down the swelling. Don't be scared." At 6 o'clock in the evening, Kyle came back. Where is he? The housekeeper stepped out of the kitchen, drying her hands on her apron. I think he's in the bathroom. Kyle tossed a plastic bag onto the dining table, a clear bag with a pharmacy logo on it. He turned and pushed open the bathroom door. Steam hit his face. Tyler, completely naked, was drying his hair with a towel. Even through the fog, Kyle could see clearly how thin Tyler's body was, almost like a sheet of paper. Tyler clearly hadn't expected anyone to just open the door. That tiny towel wasn't nearly enough to cover anything. The hollow of his collarbone sank deep. He turned away awkwardly, but he knew his brother had already seen everything. The tips of his ears burned red as blood. The door clicked shut behind him. Tyler squeezed his eyes shut and took a deep breath, then slowly began to dress himself. His thighs were trembling, he didn't know what he was so afraid of. His shoulders had been scraped raw during the struggle. It hurt, but he could bear it. When he came out, he didn't dare look at Kyle. He stood there, uncertain. Put this on yourself. Tyler noticed the plastic bag on the table. Out of habit, he signed thank you to Kyle, then remembered Kyle wouldn't understand. He reached for his phone, but Kyle stopped him. You've got some nerve. You haven't even been in school a week and you're already fighting. Tyler turned back, signing anxiously, they started it. His hands moved fast. Kyle frowned, even if he didn't understand the signs, he could guess Tyler was explaining. He sat down on the sofa. Fine. Tell me. Why did you fight? They told me to buy them drinks, but they didn't give me any money. I asked for it. They wouldn't give it to me. Tyler's fingers were long and slender, probably still damp from the shower. His knees were red, faint bruises visible on his thin legs. His injured face had a fragile look, but his eyes were stubborn. For a moment, Kyle thought he really did resemble Linda. "I told you, I don't understand." "That." Tyler looked defeated. His shoulders slumped, his wet eyelashes clumped together. He tried opening his mouth countless times, each attempt ended in failure. The plastic bag held 2 boxes of bandages. Kyle peeled one open and handed it to Tyler. Tyler took it with both hands. Kyle noticed that some of Tyler's lower lashes were growing inward, poking into his eyes. Tyler lightly tapped Kyle's hand, then turned and went to his room. About 2 minutes later, he came back out. He was holding a notebook and a pen. He held it up for Kyle. "Brother, I'm sorry. I did something wrong today. Please don't be angry." Kyle no longer bothered correcting Tyler's use of brother. Instead, he asked, "Instead of explaining, you apologize to me straight away?" Tyler bit his lip and wrote, "If I explain, will you forgive me, brother?" Kyle took the notebook from him and let out a quiet laugh. Tyler didn't feel any comfort in that laugh. He clutched at his clothes. Kyle took the pen from his hand as well. Before he left, Kyle didn't say another word. He shoved the notebook back into Tyler's chest. Tyler opened it. Kyle's bold, flowing handwriting said, "No." That night, Tyler ran a fever. The housekeeper didn't find out until morning. She hurriedly gave him medicine. Tyler was groggy but didn't want to waste the breakfast she'd made, so he forced himself to eat more than half. Stop. I'll make you something else. You're sick, you need to rest." "It's okay." She told Tyler to go back to bed. There wasn't a thermometer in the apartment. Worried, she called Kyle. "It might be an infection from his injuries. I'm not sure. Could you come take a look? If this fever doesn't break, I really think we should take him to a doctor." After hanging up, she tiptoed to the bedroom and peeked in. The bed was lumped up, Tyler curled under the covers, not moving. Kyle finished up his work, then made a stop at the school first. The 3 instigators were called in one by one to apologize to him. The dean scolded them right in front of Kyle and explained why Tyler had gotten into the fight. A fight? Kyle wasn't happy with that wording. He sat in the dean's chair, his expression cold, radiating authority. 3 against 1, and you call that a fight? That's clearly one-sided bullying. And another thing. He walked up to the 3 students, dressed in their neatly tailored uniforms, now cowering and weak. "Apologizing to me is useless. I don't accept it." He didn't tell Richard about Tyler's injuries. Better to keep things quiet. He just hoped that before he had to bring Tyler back to the Walker estate, the boy wouldn't cause him too much trouble. From the school, he drove straight to Tyler's apartment. There was a strange noise from the kitchen. Kyle saw Tyler, dressed in thin clothes, squatting on the floor, holding a bottle of ice water that was half empty. Condensation dripped from his translucent red fingertips, pooling at the bottom of the bottle, finally falling onto his feet. The housekeeper was nowhere to be seen. Tyler was alone. His bare limbs were flushed red from the fever, including his cheeks. "Get up." Tyler slowly turned his head. His eyes were unfocused, as if the fever had made him dull, his pupils wouldn't fix on anything. Kyle repeated himself. Tyler still didn't move. The front of his t-shirt was soaked from the condensation on the water bottle. Kyle watched him shiver. Finally, with no other choice, Kyle's jaw tightened and he hauled Tyler to his feet. Tyler was burning up, limp as a rag. The water bottle rolled out of his arms. His hands reached up and wrapped around Kyle's neck, and he burrowed into Kyle's chest like a child. He was too skinny, too light. That slender waist could be circled with one hand. Kyle could only feel Tyler's heartbeat to confirm he was still alive. "Who taught you to drink ice water when you have a fever?" Tyler couldn't speak, and he didn't have the strength to. "Sign." Slowly, he lifted his face from Kyle's chest and mouthed one word very softly, "Dad." When he was little and sick, fever medicine didn't work. His father would pour ice water over him, saying it would bring his temperature down. So every time Tyler ran a fever, he did the same thing. Kyle didn't look pleased. Tyler couldn't stop shivering. Trembling, he rubbed his cheek against Kyle's neck, pure instinct. In his memory, every time Linda got angry at him, he instinctively used this kind of appeasing behavior to tell her not to be mad. He wanted his mother not to hate him. He wanted her to give him a hug or a kiss. He was a very good child. He would listen, he would behave. Please don't abandon him. He thought Kyle would push him away without mercy, just like Linda always did. He'd already braced himself for that familiar, weary rejection. But Kyle didn't. The warmth in his arms was like the clouds Tyler used to watch when he was home alone, daydreaming. It could completely envelop him. It had been so long since he'd been held. The fever's heat evaporated the tears he couldn't stop from falling. Kyle really was a very good brother. Tyler thought, a little greedily, if only his brother could like him just a little bit. Tyler hated being sick. No one in the house ever took special care of him. Linda and his father would even fight over who had to go buy him medicine. He couldn't speak, but his hearing was sharp. His mind was foggy, he couldn't sleep, but his consciousness stayed alert. The rental apartment had terrible soundproofing, everything leaked into his ears. He could clearly hear his father's impatient voice, "It's just a fever, isn't it? A little ice water will bring it down. Do you have any idea how far the pharmacy is? Why don't you go?" Linda would argue with him. Her temper was terrible. The smallest thing would set off an earth-shattering explosion. Things in the house were frequently smashed. His father's growls and curses would drown Tyler like a flood. His father said that Tyler had Linda's last name because she'd insisted on giving birth to him. She'd also insisted on running away with a man who had no money, not even a steady job, a deadbeat with no future. His father said Linda had lost her mind, that she was so stupid she didn't even care about money, and the child she gave birth to was a mute. Tyler started school very late. Before age 8, he was almost always home. Linda would feed him medicine. He took it obediently, but it was incredibly hard to swallow. Water spilled everywhere. Linda would get angry and shove him onto the bed, then pick him back up and force ice water down his throat. The liquid would shoot up from his nasal cavity into his throat. He'd cough until his lungs felt like they might burst. But Linda would just keep crying. Her tears had no warmth. Tyler wanted to hold her and tell her that he would stay by her side forever. Yet the day Linda left home, she put on a white dress she hadn't worn in a long time. She didn't take anything with her, her hands were empty. She left everything behind, including Tyler. Being sick brought back terrible memories. Tyler didn't want to leave that warm, safe embrace at all. He wanted his brother to stay with him forever. His clothes were damp and uncomfortable. He crawled out from under the blanket and hugged Kyle again, his hot, uneven breath swirling around Kyle's neck. Let go. It was easy to push a sick person away. Tyler knelt on the bed, watching him, eyes wet as a stray dog's. He was signing again. Too bad Kyle couldn't understand. Stay here. Kyle straightened his clothes. His hair was a little messy. He turned and left, leaving Tyler alone in the bedroom. The housekeeper came back from buying a thermometer. She looked worried. I gave him medicine, but the fever just doesn't seem to break. I bought this to check his temperature. If it doesn't get better, we really should go to the hospital. Kyle told her to start cooking dinner. He took the thermometer and went back to Tyler's room. The window was half open. Light fell across the bed. Tyler was sitting exactly where Kyle had left him, staring into space. When he saw Kyle walk in, his dull eyes lit up instantly, like a baby bird waiting for its parent. Tyler had never used an ear thermometer before. The beep scared him, he flinched and looked nervously at Kyle. 39 degrees Celsius 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Kyle closed his eyes and sighed. You're nothing but trouble for me, aren't you? Tyler raised his right hand, weak, and signed 2 quick gestures. What does that mean? He repeated it. Kyle still didn't understand. Tyler crawled to the edge of the bed to find his notebook. Kyle brought a glass of water and some medicine and told him to take it. Tyler's dry lips brushed against Kyle's fingertips. He obediently opened his mouth and pulled the pill in with his tongue. Drink it yourself. He was very good. He held the glass with both hands, but he couldn't steady it, it kept shaking. He was afraid of spilling water on the bed. But Kyle held the bottom of the glass and lifted it for him. Tyler tilted his head back and drank 2 big gulps. He didn't forget to sign thank you to Kyle. The response was the same as always, I told you, I don't understand that. If you have that much energy, lie down properly for me. If your fever isn't gone by tomorrow, if it wasn't gone by tomorrow, what then? He wanted to ask his brother, would he be angry? Would he punish Tyler the way his mother used to? He picked up the pen and paper from the nightstand. Brother, I'll get better. His handwriting was shaky and crooked. But Kyle noticed something else. Where's your phone? Tyler's phone screen was completely shattered. They did that? Kyle could guess. He didn't expect Tyler to tell him right now anyway. Compared to explaining, Tyler seemed to prefer apologizing. The bruises on his thin legs hadn't faded. Tyler held the bricked phone, completely unresponsive, then lay down weakly. Kyle gave him another dose of fever reducer. That evening, Richard called. He told Kyle to bring Tyler to the main house this weekend. This weekend? Kyle's question made Richard suspicious. He asked whether Kyle was busy or if something was wrong with Tyler. No. I'll bring him. Kyle asked if Linda knew about this. He never called her mother. Linda didn't allow it anyway. I'll tell her myself, Richard said, his tone full of frustration. Don't worry about that. Just bring the boy. Kyle didn't leave that night. He stayed in the bedroom next to Tyler's. Before bed, he checked Tyler's temperature again. The fever reducer had started working. His body temperature had dropped to 37.5 degrees Celsius, 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit. But Tyler still felt hot to the touch. He wasn't sleeping soundly, his consciousness hazy. The warm yellow bedside lamp fell on his gaunt face. His furrowed brow made him look like he was in pain. He'd curled into a ball, and when Kyle came close, he reached out and hugged him. It was some kind of habit, whenever he hugged someone, he liked to rub his cheek against them. His soft skin pressed thin against the corner of Kyle's mouth, like he was begging for favor. Don't be angry. In their few brief meetings, that was what Tyler said most often. His arms around Kyle's neck were like a furnace. His breath was the same, hot, heavy, stifling. It should have been accompanied by uncomfortable moans and groans, but Kyle heard nothing. He saw the sweat on Tyler's forehead and the dampness at the corners of his eyes. For a moment, Kyle felt like Tyler was still a child. He wasn't mature like other boys his age. He wasn't strong like them either. He was mute. When he was happy, he couldn't say it. When he was in pain, he couldn't say that either. Tyler had no father. Just a mother who abandoned him. How was that any different from Kyle? The only thing they had in common was that they both had to call Richard grandfather. Maybe instead of blaming Tyler for being a nuisance, Kyle should say that Richard had found himself a very convenient helper. The old man really acted like Kyle was Tyler's real brother, bossing him around. Kyle pried Tyler's arms off him. The boy on the bed had opened his eyes some time ago. His lower lashes were wet again, several of them poking into his eye sockets. Kyle was about to stand up when Tyler grabbed his hand. Kyle didn't know what he wanted, and he didn't have much patience to watch Tyler sign. Go to sleep. Tyler pressed his face into Kyle's palm. He rubbed his eyes with his other hand. His disheveled lashes stuck together. Every blink seemed to cause him some kind of pain. Finally, Kyle couldn't stand it anymore. He reached out, pulled down Tyler's lower eyelid, and the lash that was stuck in his eye came out. At last, Tyler stopped shedding those pointless tears. Tyler opened his mouth and reached toward Kyle. His eyes weren't clear. His upper and lower lips touched. He mouthed silently, hug. Sick children instinctively whine for affection. But Tyler didn't know how to do that. He only knew how to use appeasing behaviors to confirm whether he still had any reason to exist. So he said it again. Hug. It was okay if Kyle didn't hug him. Tyler had wished for a lot of things in his life. None of them had ever come true. Maybe all affection-starved children were like this. Kyle frowned and let out a deep sigh. He scooped Tyler up from the bed, sat down on the edge of the mattress, and put the boy on his lap like you'd hold a small child. Tyler tucked his knees up and wrapped both arms around Kyle's waist. He hugged tight, pressing his cheek against Kyle's chest. Kyle looked down and saw the top of Tyler's soft black hair. You'd better make sure Richard gives me half his fortune. As if that wasn't enough, he lifted Tyler's chin and made him look up. 2/3. Better yet, give me all of it. Otherwise, Kyle hadn't signed up to be a full-time nanny. Tyler's fever broke completely within 2 days. Kyle thought the mute kid, who looked so fragile, had a surprisingly resilient constitution. The day he took Tyler to the hospital, the weather was clear and bright. Tyler wore a gray hoodie a size too big, or maybe it was just that Tyler was so skinny it hung loose on him. His straight, slender collarbones faintly showed. Under the sunlight, his skin was startlingly pale. He hooked his finger around Kyle's, trying to hold his hand. Kyle noticed that since the fever, Tyler had become incredibly clingy. "What are you doing?" He pulled his hand back, not letting Tyler hold it. Tyler was stubborn. This time, he used both hands to lift Kyle's palm and held on tight, like he wasn't going to let go no matter what. "Why are you hanging on to me?" Tyler's hands were empty. He hadn't brought anything today, so he could only sign slowly for Kyle. Kyle didn't understand, but he could guess something about liking his brother, wanting to hold his brother's hand. "I told you, I'm not your brother." Tyler's eyes were very wet, like a leftover symptom of the fever. His expression was pure as he looked at Kyle. Like molasses candy. Impossible to shake off. The fever was nearly gone. His school injuries weren't serious. The doctor prescribed some medicine. On the way home, Kyle bought Tyler a new phone. Tyler's refusals couldn't keep up with Kyle's speed at the register. Tyler cradled the phone like a treasure. Kyle saved his number in it. Even though Tyler's fever had only lasted 2 days, Kyle's time here had already delayed some of his work. Before leaving, Tyler clearly didn't want him to go. He still wanted a hug. Kyle wondered if the fever had cooked Tyler's brain. Did he really think Kyle was his nanny? Tyler was pushed away, looking unhappy. He wasn't used to the new phone yet, so he still grabbed his notebook and pen at home to write to Kyle. "Thank you, brother. Want a hug?" Kyle shifted his gaze from the notebook to Tyler's face. The red flush on his cheeks was like a cut apple on the table. He reached out and pushed down the notebook Tyler was holding up. No, the word sounded a little cold in Tyler's ears. He bit his lip and kept writing. "But you hugged me the other day. That was because you were sick and you kept clinging to me. It wasn't because I wanted to hug you." Tyler looked sad. His stubborn expression reminded Kyle more and more of Linda. "I don't just hug anyone for free. There has to be something in it for me. What can you give me?" Tyler blinked and wrote, "What do you want, brother?" Kyle pretended to think seriously. "Money. I like money." Tyler froze. His writing slowed down. "But I don't have any money." "Then no hugs." Tyler stood at the entryway, pitiful and aggrieved, watching Kyle leave. The door closed softly. The housekeeper asked him what he wanted for lunch. He wasn't picky, he wrote that anything was fine. Just over a bad fever, his appetite was better. After eating, he got sleepy. He asked the housekeeper how to text someone. She taught him carefully. The first thing he learned was how to send a message to Kyle. "Brother, good afternoon. Today I ate rice, ribs, and carrots. I'm about to take a nap." He hugged a pillow to his chest, but it wasn't as good as Kyle's hug. It wasn't soft enough, and it had no warmth. He fell asleep without getting a reply from Kyle. The fever had drained too much of his energy. When he woke up, it was already 4 in the afternoon. The half-drawn curtains let in almost no light. The dark, quiet room suddenly filled Tyler with a huge sense of emptiness. He remembered the cramped, shabby rental apartment he'd lived in with his father. His eyes were dry. He rubbed them. His phone beeped once. His ears perked up, he grabbed it eagerly. Spam. Not Kyle. If only he could stay sick forever. When he was sick, he got his brother's hugs. He didn't want to get better at all. Tyler recovered completely, but he still didn't see Kyle. Then again, if he counted on his fingers, it had only been 3 days. Saturday afternoon, Tyler sat alone on the balcony with his phone, staring into space. Birds flew past the window from time to time. He counted carefully, 3 of them. The housekeeper asked if he wanted to come with her to the store. He said yes. They went to the grocery store together. At the checkout, he stared at the Kinder eggs on the counter for a long time. "There's chocolate inside, and a little toy," the housekeeper said, picking one up. "If you like it, we'll get it." Tyler shook his head frantically, turning red with distress. The housekeeper laughed. "It's not expensive. Mr. Walker said so, anything you want, we can buy." She probably meant Kyle. Tyler froze. After they paid, the housekeeper tucked the Kinder egg into his hand. He held it carefully and typed on his phone for her to see. "Did my brother say I could buy it?" Even at 18, his words and actions were still very childlike. Even if he wanted something, he needed a parent's permission to accept it. That's right. The first day she hired me, he told me to take good care of you and not let you be short of anything. Kyle really had said that. He'd given the housekeeper a card for expenses and told her to keep a close eye on things, buy whatever was needed. She wasn't lying. She even joked, otherwise, Mr. Walker would get mad and fire me. That wouldn't be good. The Kinder Egg grew warm in Tyler's hand. He felt his heart warm up too. He wouldn't do that, ma'am. My brother wouldn't fire you. It's getting late. Let's go home. When they got back, the apartment door was already open. Kyle, in a suit, stood in the living room. He turned at the sound of the door closing. Tyler saw his slightly furrowed brows. Where did you go? The housekeeper answered first. We went to the grocery store. Will you be staying for dinner, sir? Kyle declined. No. Don't bother preparing anything. Then he looked at Tyler, who looked lost. Go change your clothes. Tyler didn't move, like a block of wood. Kyle frowned. Are you deaf? Tyler nodded and signed okay out of habit. He changed quickly. He didn't know where Kyle was taking him. He just didn't want to keep his brother waiting. He grabbed a hoodie at random, came out with the tips of his ears bright red, and ran over to hold Kyle's hand. Kyle tried to shake him off. Tyler's hand was soft and warm, maybe even a little sweaty. Are you dirty? Tyler froze, realized he hadn't washed his hands since coming home, and shook his head quickly. He signed for Kyle to wait, not caring whether Kyle understood, and ran to the bathroom. Kyle heard the rush of water from the living room. In less than half a minute, Tyler was back. Only then did Kyle notice the white egg-shaped thing in Tyler's hand. He didn't have time to ask about it. He just told Tyler to follow him. In the elevator, Tyler typed on his phone. Brother, where are we going? Kyle's expression didn't change. Home. Isn't this home? Kyle didn't agree with that. He glanced at Tyler indifferently. No, Tyler didn't object. Instead, he shared the Kinder Egg with Kyle. The housekeeper bought this for me today. She said there's chocolate inside and a little toy. He smiled happily, cupping the Kinder Egg protectively in his palm. I'll share it with you, brother. Keep it for yourself. The elevator doors opened. Kyle stepped out. Tyler followed behind him like a little tail. He refused to get in the car, holding his phone up. Brother, you didn't reply to my text. I want to share my chocolate and toy with you. Can you please pay attention to me? Behind the cold-looking words on the screen were Tyler's wet eyes. When did I not reply to your text? Tyler blinked. A few days ago. I told you I ate ribs and carrots and was going to take a nap. You still haven't replied. He wasn't sure if Kyle had been too busy to see it or just didn't want to answer. He had no money. He couldn't buy a hug. But he still greedily wanted a reply. The chocolate is good. The toy is really cute. I want you to pay attention to me, brother. Brother this, brother that. After reading it, Kyle felt like he didn't even recognize the word brother anymore. He grabbed Tyler's arm and pushed him toward the car, his hand on Tyler's back. Through the hoodie, he could feel Tyler's protruding shoulder blades, sharp and thin. I'll think about it. But for now, be quiet. Tyler covered his mouth with his hand. Kyle closed the car door for him, then got into the driver's seat. Before starting the engine, Tyler held his phone out to the front. Brother, I'm naturally very quiet. It's not like I can talk anyway. When Kyle had told Tyler to be quiet, he meant he didn't want the boy typing out messages to him the whole ride. But Tyler had twisted that into something about being mute. In a way, Tyler was indeed quite obedient. After all, when Richard first told Kyle to go pick the kid up, Kyle hadn't expected much from a troubled 17 or 18-year-old. Tyler turned out to be the complete opposite of Kyle's expectations. A pleasant surprise, really. The first time Tyler stepped into the Walker estate, he felt not just nervous but afraid. The mansion was far from downtown, surrounded by quiet, well-maintained greenery. When they arrived, Tyler was too scared to get out of the car. He asked Kyle if this was his grandfather's house, and whether he would get to see his mother today. Kyle looked into Tyler's clear, dark eyes, like two transparent glass marbles. Yes. Tyler was so nervous he started sweating. His palms grew sticky, and he could barely hold on to his phone. Instinctively, he reached for Kyle's hand. His brother's palm was larger, thicker, and warmer than his own. He held on tight. Standing in the bright, spacious first-floor living room, Tyler remembered the cramped rental apartment where his mother had left him. Dark, cold, like a damp weed always dragging him down into an abyss. In that moment, he suddenly understood why she had left. The Kinder Egg was still in his hoodie pocket. Whenever he got anxious, he touched it. Richard Walker came downstairs. His hair was more than half gray. Kyle followed behind him. The two didn't look much alike. Kyle told Tyler, "This is your grandfather." Out of habit, Tyler touched his stomach, the Kinder Egg pressed against his belly. He grabbed a fistful of his soft clothing, opened his mouth to speak, then closed it pitifully. Carefully, he signed grandfather. Tyler couldn't read the appraising look in Richard's eyes. All he heard was Richard's slightly muffled voice saying that Tyler looked just like Linda. Linda. That must be his mother, Tyler guessed. Linda didn't appear until mealtime, wheeled in by her nurse. The dining table always had one spot without a chair, reserved for her wheelchair. The mother in Tyler's memory had become gaunt and withered, like a dried flower. Her long hair was no longer soft but had turned to straw. Yet her gaunt, almost distorted face was still instantly recognizable. No matter how much time had passed, Tyler couldn't bring himself to say Mom. Now, he couldn't even cling to Linda's leg the way he had as a child. He couldn't cry, Linda had always hated it when he cried. Richard told Tyler to sit beside Linda. Tyler couldn't help but glance at Kyle, who sat across from him. Sit down. Only then did Tyler nervously change seats. Richard's tone was unreadable. He listens to you. Linda carried a faint scent of medicine. Tyler silently turned his face to look at her, then quickly looked down again. They've met a few times. He's a little used to me, Kyle said. Richard nodded. You're his brother. Taking care of him is only right. The four people at the table fell quiet. Linda ate very slowly. Her thin, bony hand trembled as she held her chopsticks. Several times, food fell off. Tyler quickly used a clean spoon to scoop some up for her, carefully placing it into her bowl. His arm brushed against Linda's dry, stiff hair. Maybe she felt something, because tonight she finally gave Tyler a single glance. He couldn't describe that look. It was like the still, deep water of a well. Then, suddenly, it was as if a stone had been dropped into that old well. Tyler watched ripples spread across her eyes. Linda asked him abruptly, "What's your name?" Tyler's hands clenched into fists. He couldn't answer. Confused and panicked, he looked at Kyle. Richard broke the silence. Eat. No more talking. Linda hasn't been well lately. She needs to rest early. No one objected. Tyler finished the meal with his heart pounding the entire time. When Kyle took Tyler to leave, it was nearly 7 in the evening. Kyle took a phone call first. When he came back out, he happened to see Richard standing with his cane, facing Tyler. Richard had been saying something. The old man slowly turned his head and said to Kyle, "You two go ahead. Next time, I'll arrange a time for Tyler to come again." Yes. The car was parked in a corner of the courtyard. Outside, the lights were dim, but Kyle could see Tyler's red-rimmed eyes. Tyler didn't get in the car. He'd already typed a message on his phone and held it up. "Brother, Grandpa said Mom isn't healthy, so they didn't tell her I was coming. That's why she didn't seem to recognize me. I guess I've grown up. I've changed a lot from before. He said when Mom is feeling better, I should come again." Kyle hesitated for a few seconds. He couldn't bring himself to shatter Tyler's illusion. Linda's poor health was only part of it. The most important thing was that Linda had never wanted Tyler to come home. She was deeply resistant to seeing the only child she'd ever given birth to, because he represented the reckless mistake she'd made when she was young and foolish. That mistake couldn't be undone. No matter what, she couldn't crawl out of that cold, dark pit. Kyle had thought Richard would prepare Linda mentally. But in the end, Richard hadn't told her the truth at all. Kyle reached out and pushed Tyler's phone down. His voice was low. "Get in the car." Tyler nodded, then grabbed Kyle's hand and signed for him to wait. Kyle watched as Tyler happily pulled a bulging red envelope from his hoodie pocket. Tyler even typed an explanation. "Grandpa gave it to me. I said I couldn't accept it, but he said since it's my first time at the house, I had to take it. Then he stuffed it in my pocket. I thought about it, and I thanked him. He seemed really happy. Then keep it. Tyler's eyes were wet. He bit his lip, pulled out a $100 bill, and held it up to Kyle. Kyle frowned and didn't take it. What's this? I'm giving you money, brother. Can I have a hug now? Kyle had nearly forgotten his own words. Trade money for a hug. No, Kyle rejected him without mercy. Too little. Tyler looked troubled. He pulled out a few more bills from the envelope. How about this? Not enough. Tyler spun around anxiously. Finally, desperate, he shoved the entire red envelope into Kyle's hands. What about now? Kyle laughed. Have you even counted how much is in there? Tyler shook his head. Kyle pushed the envelope back with his fingertip and said seriously, I think I need to make something clear to you. Tyler looked like an obedient child waiting for a lesson. You and I aren't blood related. Kyle spoke very slowly, pausing for a few seconds. I'm not your, Tyler began to look nervous. Biological brother. Kyle finished. Understand? Maybe it was Kyle's imagination, but Tyler's face flushed bright red, spreading all the way to his ears. He couldn't look Kyle in the eye, like a child who'd done something wrong. But slowly, he stepped closer and stuffed the red envelope back into Kyle's pocket. What are you doing? Tyler nodded, as if agreeing to something. Kyle watched Tyler's face come closer and closer, close enough to see his almost translucent eyelids and his lashes. In the dim light, Tyler stood on his tiptoes and kissed the corner of Kyle's mouth. Before taking Tyler to school, Kyle found a math test with a score of just 30 points in Tyler's backpack. That same old, faded dark blue backpack. The test was folded neatly. Kyle hadn't meant to snoop, he'd only come to return the red envelope Tyler had left in his car the night they came back from the Walker estate. He had no idea how Tyler's brain worked. How could the kid extract "I'm not your biological brother" and turn it into "biological brother you can kiss"? Tyler's lips were dry, lacking moisture, probably because he didn't drink enough water. There were faint flakes of dead skin on them, as if they might pierce Kyle's own skin. When Kyle pushed him away, the warmth still lingered on the corner of his mouth. Tyler's eyelids were so thin he could see the faint blue veins beneath. The sudden rejection must have scared Tyler. His expression was flustered. But in Kyle's eyes, such overly intimate behavior was also very strange. His jaw tightened, and he said sternly, "Did you mishear me?" Tyler tilted his head and shook his head. "I said I'm not your biological brother. We're not blood related." Sometimes Kyle hated having to explain the same thing multiple times, so he laid it all out at once. "I was adopted by Richard Walker. Do you understand now?" Tyler half understood. The flush on his face drained quickly. He was still holding the red envelope Richard had given him. His eyes grew wet almost immediately, like a child who'd made a mistake and didn't know what to do. Kyle drove Tyler home. He didn't get out of the car. They sat in silence for a long time. Then, from the back seat, a phone screen glowed. "I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? I misheard you. I'm so sorry. No more brother." The engine was still running. Kyle turned his head slightly. In the dark car, Tyler's eyes were like two stars soaked in water. "You don't need to apologize to me." Kyle thought his tone was reasonable. Tyler nodded very gently, typed goodnight, and got out. After Tyler left, Kyle opened his phone and saw the old message Tyler had sent. "Brother, good afternoon. Today I ate rice, ribs, and carrots. I'm about to take a nap." Kyle didn't remember ever seeing that message. And now, there was no reason to reply. He turned off his phone and lit a cigarette in the car. From that night on, a full week passed without him going to see Tyler. After such a long break, it was time for school. Before picking Tyler up, Kyle went to see Richard again. It was clear Richard was very pleased with his biological grandson. He can't go his whole life without speaking. "I've contacted several more doctors. You take him to see them?" Kyle nodded and said yes. He thought that was the end of it. But Richard called him back. "Find some time. Learn sign language." Why should Kyle learn it? Did that make sense? Predictably, Richard excused himself by saying he was too old and his health was too poor to learn new things. "I see him holding up his phone all the time. It looks so pitiful. So Kyle learning sign language wasn't pitiful? But all he could say was, I understand. Tyler wasn't home. The housekeeper said he'd been going out for walks by himself the past 2 days, always coming back in time for meals. She didn't know where he went. But sure enough, before 5 in the afternoon, Tyler was back. Kyle was still holding that failing math test. Tyler froze, then his face turned bright red. He reached out to take it back. Kyle figured this was part of Richard's assignment, acting as Tyler's guardian, so he decided to tease Tyler a little. Scoring this low, and you thought you could just hide it? Tyler shook his head frantically but couldn't explain. He pulled out his phone. No, please don't look. I know it's embarrassing. Then why don't you fix it? Tyler's pale fingers trembled as he typed, looking deeply troubled. I don't know how. The regular school curriculum was too hard for him. His special school had never taught this stuff. He explained that to Kyle, who replied, huh. Then I guess I should congratulate you. He said, getting 30 points by random guessing takes real skill. The flush spread from Tyler's cheeks to his ears. He lowered his head and said nothing. Kyle's mood improved slightly. He tucked the test back into Tyler's backpack. Tomorrow, I'm taking you to school. You're fixing this tonight. Tyler's eyes widened. Kyle's expression said. There was no room for negotiation. Tonight, he repeated. Fix it and show me. You won't leave? Kyle said, I'll leave after I see your corrected test. But I really don't know how. Typing that seemed to embarrass Tyler to death. I can't understand the lessons. Then can you teach me, brother? There it was again. Brother. Kyle's sign language classes were scheduled for weekend afternoons, depending on his work schedule. The logic of sign language wasn't difficult for him. The teacher politely asked if someone in his family used sign language. He thought for a moment, stared at her for a while, and said, yeah. My adopted little brother. The teacher was taken aback by his phrasing but couldn't pry further. She just laughed it off. He'd been very busy lately, hadn't seen Tyler in a while. His last prank had been interrupted by a phone call from Richard. Before leaving, Tyler had stood pitifully at the entryway watching him go, unlike before, not rushing in to ask for a hug. In Kyle's eyes, Tyler's behavior showed a sense of propriety. Knowing they weren't blood-related, the boy kept his distance. Dinner was ready, but Kyle didn't stay. The housekeeper opened the door for him. Tyler took 2 quiet steps forward from the entryway. Kyle remembered something and said, since Richard gave you money, go buy yourself a new backpack. He told the housekeeper, go with him. The housekeeper nodded repeatedly. He'd said he would take Tyler to school the next day, but Kyle never showed up again. The red envelope. The chocolate egg. The 30-point math test. None of them made it to Kyle. Tyler put them all away. The first week back at school, the housekeeper said one weekend that she wanted to take Tyler out. Tyler was sitting on his little stool on the balcony, staring into space. He asked if they were going grocery shopping. The housekeeper said, didn't Mr. Walker say so? We're buying a new backpack. And while we're at it, let's get you some new clothes too. Tyler typed to her, I don't need anything. Don't waste money. Let's just go first. Probably under Kyle's orders, the housekeeper insisted on completing her task. So whether it was the new backpack or the new clothes, she bought them all. Naturally, she didn't use a cent from Tyler's red envelope. Your grandfather gave you that. You should save it for yourself, she said. On the way home, they took a taxi. Tyler looked dejected. The housekeeper asked if he was feeling unwell or unhappy. Tyler bit his lip and shook his head. After a long moment, he slowly typed for her to see. Brother hasn't come in a long time. The housekeeper paused, then smiled. He's probably very busy. He'll come when he's free. Tyler smiled back at her, meaning he understood. He put his phone away. When they got home, the housekeeper started cooking. Tyler took a shower. Shampoo got into his eyes. He rinsed them many times but they still stung, so he rubbed them, from eyelids to corners, they all turned red. Half blind, he got dressed. The hairdryer's wind made the discomfort worse, so he gave up and went back to his room with wet hair. When he saw Kyle standing in the room, he thought he was hallucinating. The man was still in a suit, his tie loosened and hanging slack around his neck. He looked at Tyler. Tyler's blurry vision couldn't make out his expression. Showering early? Kyle glanced at his wristwatch. Tyler was still dazed. Kyle walked up to him and saw his red, almost swollen eyes. What's wrong with you? His voice sounded a little impatient. Are you trying to cause me more trouble? Tyler finally reacted. He shook his head slightly, but his gaze stayed fixed on Kyle. His phone was on the table. He picked it up, his fingers trembling slightly as he typed. I sweated a lot today, so I wanted to shower when I got home. The shampoo just got in my eyes. When did you get here, brother? Kyle took off his tie completely and draped it over the back of Tyler's chair. Not long ago. Tyler nodded glumly, not sure what he was feeling. He took out the chocolate egg from his drawer and asked Kyle if he wanted some. Kyle glanced at it a couple of times and asked, Is it expired? You're just eating it now? No. I was waiting to eat it with you, brother. I already told you. I'm not your biological brother. Sharing things with me won't do you any good. Tyler's wet eyes looked like shattered stars. He changed his wording. I want two people to eat it together. He'd been planning to eat it alone after his shower, but since Kyle was here, he didn't want to eat by himself. In front of Kyle, he unwrapped it. Compared to the chocolate, Kyle was more interested in the small toy inside. The first piece, Tyler wanted to feed to Kyle. Kyle didn't eat it. Instead, he tore open the toy packaging. It was a very simple toy, just a few pieces to snap together. A pink bunny. Tyler held the tiny spoon that came with it and then held the bunny in his hand. It's not for sharing. You can have it. Moving closer, Tyler noticed the dark circles under Kyle's eyes. Worried, he asked if Kyle hadn't been sleeping well. Kyle said that wasn't any of Tyler's business. Tyler bit his spoon and asked, Brother, do you still want to see my corrected test? Kyle had been about to leave. He turned back, his expression neutral, remembering. I forgot. You still haven't fixed it? Tyler looked visibly disappointed. I don't know how. Kyle wasn't in the mood today. He hadn't come to tutor Tyler in math. Tomorrow, I'm taking you back to Richard's again. Tyler showed no objection. Kyle continued, this time, you'll need to stay there for a week. Then wait for me to come get you. The chocolate in his mouth lost its sweetness. Tyler typed, okay. Then he asked, will you be there too, brother? Kyle looked very tired. Maybe it was because of that last phone call. I'll drop you off and leave. I have to go abroad for a week. Tyler's blinking slowed down. That meant he wouldn't see Kyle for nearly another week. The housekeeper called from outside, saying dinner was ready. Kyle was about to leave the bedroom. Tyler's mind went blank, and he grabbed Kyle's hand. Kyle frowned, confused. Tyler bit his lip, moved quickly to his desk drawer, pulled out the red envelope again, and stuffed it into Kyle's hand. What's this? Kyle took it, expressionless. Tyler's courage had grown much larger since they first met. You said you'd take me to school. You said you'd help me fix my test. You did neither. Kyle raised an eyebrow. What? You're saying I'm a liar? Tyler pressed his lips together. In Kyle's eyes, that was practically an admission. Kyle smirked. You'd have to ask your dear grandfather about that. He keeps dumping his dirty work on me. Confusion spread across Tyler's face. Kyle tried to put the red envelope back on the desk, but Tyler caught his hand swiftly, wrapping both of his own around Kyle's and holding it tight against his chest. Then he shook his head. Kyle had no idea what Tyler was trying to say, but right now, he didn't have much patience. Between work, sign language classes, and a flight to the US the day after tomorrow, he had no energy left for Richard's grandson. Let go. Tyler refused. His hands were soft and warm, still smelling like body wash from his shower. Kyle looked at his fair, flushed face and used his other hand to grip Tyler's chin. What exactly do you want? Kyle retracted his earlier thought about Tyler having a sense of propriety. This stubborn mute boy seemed to have no clue what propriety meant. Come here. As if to tease him, Kyle squeezed his chin a little harder. Tyler obediently moved closer. That little bit of money isn't even enough to buy me 2 meals, Kyle said. You want me to take you to school? Teach you to fix your test? Either come up with more money or trade me something else. Trade what? Tyler didn't understand. His dry eyes stung slightly. He'd been embarrassed the first time he kissed his brother, but later, it didn't feel like much. He was more afraid of Kyle disappearing for days at a time. Whether Kyle was his biological brother or not didn't matter to Tyler. He just wanted to call him brother. He lifted Kyle's hand and pressed it against his own cheek, nuzzling softly. His soft lips brushed against Kyle's rougher palm, and finally, he pressed a kiss there. Another long separation was coming. He couldn't get a hug. This would have to do. On the day he went to the Walker estate, Tyler packed a few changes of clothes into his old dark blue backpack. Kyle came specifically to pick him up. Wear that, and Richard will think I've been mistreating you. Tyler looked confused, then typed very seriously, I'm used to it. I don't want to use the new one yet. Kyle was wearing a perfectly tailored suit, his hair carefully styled. His expressionless face looked even harder to approach than before. Afraid Kyle was upset, Tyler added, brother hasn't mistreated me. I'll explain that to Grandpa. Huh? Kyle raised an eyebrow. That's all you'll say? Tyler frowned, looking earnest. Brother is very good to me. I like him very much. Is that okay? I suppose you have some conscience. Tyler smiled shyly and wanted to hold Kyle's hand on the way downstairs. His brother's palm was so much bigger than his, it felt safe. If only Kyle would stop shaking him off. You're getting pretty good at this, Kyle said. Tyler didn't understand. He hadn't done anything wrong. He was always very obedient. Wait, he remembered. Kyle said he needed money in exchange for a hug. His red envelope was gone. He didn't have any spare cash now. Kyle seemed to read his thoughts and pulled his hand back. If you don't have it, then no. He discovered that with Tyler, ordinary logic didn't apply. It wasn't that Tyler was rebellious, he was actually very rule-abiding. Like how no money meant no hugs or hand-holding. Sure enough, Tyler looked crushed. He pitifully let go of Kyle's hand. For a moment, Kyle thought taking that red envelope from Tyler might not have been a bad thing. Without money, Tyler wouldn't cling to him like sticky candy. Let's go. Tyler lowered his head, revealing a clean, pale stretch of neck above his collar. He nodded ever so slightly. The first day at the Walker estate, the fourth time being separated from Kyle. Tyler sat with Richard in the small garden behind the mansion. Most of the time, Richard did the talking. He talked about himself, about Linda, and about Kyle. He asked how Kyle treated Tyler. Before Tyler could type an answer, Richard patted his shoulder and said Kyle was a good kid. Calling Kyle a kid made Tyler feel like they were the same age for a moment. What are you smiling at? Richard asked. Tyler blushed, embarrassed, and typed with his soft fingertips. He's a good brother. Was the money I gave you last time enough? I'll give you more later. When you're a little older, Richard trailed off. Tyler didn't know what a little older meant, but today, for the first time, he chose to lie. He didn't say whether the money was enough or not. Richard assumed he was short. A child who'd never had enough money growing up needed to be properly provided for. Richard seemed very happy. The wrinkles at the corners of his eyes deepened. He said that after dinner, he and Linda would take a walk together. Tyler agreed. Linda isn't well. And I'm getting old. He didn't say anything else, just stated facts. Tyler typed for him to see. Grandpa will live to be 100. Mom will get better too. Richard ruffled Tyler's hair and called him a good child. Tyler received another red envelope from Richard. Bulging, as if filled with Richard's guilt. There are many, the old man said, his voice aged and hoarse. From age 1 to 18, 18 envelopes in total. I started preparing them when Linda was pregnant. She was always rebellious. She thought I was too strict with her. I've wondered if I was really wrong. Then he shook his head. Never mind. Enough of that. He took another red envelope from the drawer beside him and pressed it into Tyler's palm. You were obedient today. This is a bonus. They're all yours anyway. It's not that I'm being stingy, I just can't give them all to you at once. Little by little, slowly. I have 16 left. Will you be able to stay with me for another 16 years? He said, I should have brought you home sooner. Tyler felt overwhelmed again. He knew that when someone was in pain, you should comfort them. But he didn't know if a hug would help Richard. I'll always be with you, Grandpa. Richard called him a good child again. Just like Kyle, Tyler thought happily. In the afternoon, Richard took a nap. Tyler sat alone in the doorway, soaking up the sun. He held his phone, drowsy, thinking about Kyle. Brother, today Grandpa praised me. He patted my head and said I was a good child. Later, I'm going for a walk with Mom. I don't know if I'll be nervous. Brother, I miss you so much. Linda's daily outdoor activity was basically just the small garden downstairs. She couldn't go far. Her nurse pushed her. When she was lucid, she'd say a few words. Her hair hung loose, though sometimes she tied it up. The wrinkles on her face were like ancient tree roots, spreading bit by bit into Tyler's heart. He still thought he looked more like his mother. What flowers are planted this year? Tyler couldn't answer her question. He didn't know any of them. He only knew they were beautiful. Linda saw his flustered look and smiled. He can't talk either. The wind blew her hair across her face. 2 strands got into her mouth. She gently pulled them out. Tyler suddenly wanted to hug her, like he did when he was little, even if she pushed him away. Who are you? Linda closed her eyes under the weak remaining sunlight. Half a wasted life was peeling away the last of her vitality. She was tired. The nurse wheeled her back inside. Tyler touched the corner of his own eye. His fingertip came away damp. Maybe it was better that she didn't remember. Tyler walked back toward the house, counting on his fingers. Today was his 7th day at the Walker estate. Had his brother come back yet? How many more days until they could see each other? Linda didn't appear at dinner. Richard said she wasn't feeling well and needed to rest. Tyler was very worried. He typed for Richard. When we came back, Mom seemed like she wanted to sleep. Will she get better? Grandpa, being sick is miserable. She needs to see a doctor. Richard served him some food and told him not to worry. She'll get better. Then he asked, have you called her mom yet? Tyler shook his head. No. She doesn't remember me. Richard didn't speak. He just told Tyler to eat slowly. After dinner, they played chess in the living room. Tyler didn't know how. He felt stupid. But Richard was very patient. He laughed and said Kyle was smart, he always liked to win. He never lets me win, Richard said helplessly. I lose to him every time. Whenever Richard mentioned Kyle, he wore a proud, appreciative expression. Tyler was happy to listen. It felt like they should have been family all along, living together for years. His ears grew hot, unseen by anyone. At night, he still texted Kyle. Brother, I was so nervous walking with Mom. I think she remembered me, but she didn't recognize me. But I'm happy. I had dinner with Grandpa. It was delicious. We played chess. He said you're still the smart one. I'm dumb. Kyle and Tyler had a time difference of nearly 13 hours. When Kyle received Tyler's string of messages, he had just woken up and taken a shower. Another busy day ahead. Standing at the bathroom sink, brushing his teeth, he finally read the messages with some patience. I'm the dumb one. Brother is the smart egg. That was Tyler's last message. Kyle rinsed his mouth and typed back with one hand. Not wrong. Tyler replied instantly, he must have been glued to his phone. Brother, I miss you so much, smiley face. Sometimes Kyle felt Tyler didn't know how to be embarrassed. He didn't want to reply to that kind of message. After all, Tyler was just a dumb mute who couldn't even tell the difference between a biological brother and a non-biological one. Kyle changed his clothes and was about to leave when another message popped up. I'm going to sleep now. Good night, brother, angry face. On his 6th day at the Walker estate, Tyler woke up early even on the weekend. He did morning exercises with Richard. Morning exercises were just a few simple stretches. Richard's legs weren't good, he couldn't stand for long. Tyler helped steady him, and the two of them sat on a bench to talk. Xiaoyuan, Kyle, said you were sick a while back. You're all better now, I hope. Richard's voice was a little breathless as he steadied his breathing. Tyler knew he was talking about the fever. A little embarrassed, he scratched his head and typed on his phone, never far from his hand. Yes. I'm very healthy. I don't get sick often. Good. When he comes to pick you up. I doubt you'll get up early to exercise on your own. Is school very tiring? Not tiring. Then he asked, will my brother come to pick me up? If he doesn't, who will? In a little while, I'm taking Linda to see a doctor. He's your brother. Taking care of you is only right. Tyler looked a little anxious. Brother isn't going? I'm not going either? No need. It's far. Linda's condition is unstable. I'll go with her. How far was far? Tyler didn't know. Was it as far as the distance his mother had put between them when she left? Richard ruffled his hair again, comforting him. I'm not so old that I need a younger generation to watch over me. When she gets better, who knows, you might even get to call her mom. He said, we'll be back soon. Tyler nodded. He hoped his mother would get better soon. A normal weekend passed. Tyler didn't see Kyle. He waited another week. Still no Kyle. The messages on his phone still ended with Kyle calling him a double idiot. Why hadn't his brother come to pick him up yet? Brother, when are you coming back? He'd said 1 week. It turned into 2. Tyler missed him so much. It wasn't until dusk on the 3rd weekend that he finally saw Kyle. Dressed in a long black windbreaker, Kyle stood beside Richard. They had dinner together. During the meal, Tyler had no appetite. He ate quickly, then kept glancing up at Kyle. Whenever their eyes met, he looked down again. His heart pounded heavily. He heard his grandfather say that after dinner, Tyler would leave with Kyle. You have school tomorrow, and Kyle has work. I won't keep you. Come back another time. Tyler nodded. After the meal, he went to his room to pack. Just a few clothes, all stuffed into his old backpack. He should have been happy, but instead, he felt a little sad. Kyle waited for him downstairs. Tyler said goodbye to his grandfather, then followed behind Kyle to the car, just like the first day they'd met. The sky had grown dim. Tyler couldn't see clearly, but he imagined Kyle's hands on the steering wheel must be very warm. The car stopped in the underground garage. Kyle got out and opened the back door. The cold white light of the garage fell on Tyler's curled-up figure. He refused to get out. Only then did Kyle realize Tyler seemed unhappy. Get out. Tyler hugged his backpack and lifted his eyes slightly. His face looked smaller than Kyle's hand, and very stubborn. You want me to carry you? Tyler seemed determined not to move. Kyle had no choice but to threaten him. Fine, I'll drive you back then. These people really treated him like a 24/7 nanny. Suit yourself. He walked away. Straight to the elevator. He waited nearly 10 minutes. Tyler didn't follow. Annoyed, Kyle ran a hand through his hair and turned back. Tyler was still sitting in the car, holding his backpack in that stiff posture. Kyle bent down. In the dim light, he saw Tyler's red, tearful eyes. He didn't understand why Tyler was crying. His eyes were like fogged-up windows on a rainy day. Kyle had always hated dealing with children. But Tyler was different. Before Richard had asked him to pick up the boy, Kyle had seen a photo of Tyler. A thin photo, thinner than a sheet of paper. Richard had told him this was Linda's son. He said he planned to bring the boy home. Richard didn't really need to tell Kyle. Bringing home his own biological grandson was only natural. But Richard had said earnestly that Tyler was Kyle's brother, barely an adult, and he hoped Kyle would take good care of him. Kyle had never taken care of children. Did an 18-year-old need special care? Tyler was fragile, sensitive, mute, prone to crying, and stubborn. Kyle didn't know who he took after. He stared at Tyler, curled up and motionless in the car. Richard had given him a name, a good future, a home that was at least intact. Now he was handing Kyle another assignment. You're still not getting out? He'd never thought he'd end up like a parent scolding a child. I'm counting to 3. Tyler didn't move. His fingers clenched the straps of his backpack. Come on. Kyle wouldn't admit he was a little embarrassed and angry. He'd been spinning like a top for 3 weeks, got off the plane and drove straight to the Walker estate to pick Tyler up, hadn't slept a full night, and now Tyler was sulking at him. Even the housekeeper had better. Tyler sat in the car, his eyelids lowered. Kyle watched him slowly put the backpack over his shoulders. His bangs covered his tearful eyes. For some reason, Kyle felt his own anger rising. He remembered Richard telling him for the nth time that after picking Tyler up, while Richard was away, Kyle had to take even better care of him. Wasn't he already taking care of him? What more did they want? A little brother? What kind of little brother makes a face at his older brother, dares to throw a tantrum? Who knew what he'd do next? Tyler moved slowly. Kyle didn't feel like waiting. He reached out, leaned halfway into the car, and directly lifted Tyler out. Tyler was startled and instinctively wrapped his arms around Kyle's neck. Kyle kicked the car door shut and grumbled, "Go ahead and piss me off like Richard does. See if I ever get any rest." His breathing was heavy. Tyler watched his Adam's apple move, felt his own heart race, and held on tighter. Kyle felt Tyler's entire weight leaning on him, very light, the waist under his palm very thin. In the elevator mirror, he saw Tyler's wet lashes trembling. He sighed and carried him inside. The housekeeper had taken time off after Tyler moved to the Walkers. Now it was just the two of them. Kyle set Tyler on the sofa and took off his jacket. "Tell me. Why aren't you happy?" Tyler picked at his fingers, then took out his phone from his backpack. He typed for a long time, deleting and editing, but in the end, he didn't show it to Kyle. Silence flowed like a slow river. Kyle didn't have the patience for child-rearing. He crouched in front of Tyler. Finally, the phone screen, still glowing, was carefully held up to him. "Please forgive me." For a moment, Kyle felt like a deflated balloon. He even suspected that Richard had adopted him in the first place just to find Tyler a permanent nanny who would never run away. "Because you didn't reply to my texts. You said you'd pick me up in a week, but you only came today. You didn't tell me why." Dad was like that too. He wouldn't answer the phone, wouldn't reply to texts. Tears were falling again. And then I never saw him again. All his words were stuck in his throat. Kyle's hands stiffened. He almost couldn't look at the words on the screen, those cold, square characters that somehow radiated hurt. He turned his face away and said, "I was busy. I didn't reply to anyone's texts." Tyler asked him, "Are you very tired?" "Of course I'm tired. I not only have to take care of you, but I also have to handle Richard's business, find doctors for your mother, get everything arranged so they can be reached any time. And that annoying sign language class. Who could be more tired than him?" Another zipper sound. Kyle watched Tyler pull a red envelope from an inner pocket of his backpack. Tyler was trying hard to hold back, but his eyes were still brimming with tears. "For you, brother." "What for?" "You like money. I'm giving it all to you. I'll give you more later too. You want me to hug you again?" Tyler probably had an affection deficit, so he always used physical contact to confirm whether he was disliked. But if he needed affection, he should go to Linda. Kyle didn't have any maternal love, or paternal love, for that matter. "You already hugged me. You carried me home." Very principled. Kyle glanced at the red envelope and didn't take it. "No need. Stay here. I'll call the housekeeper." He turned to leave. Tyler didn't stop him. At the door, there was still no sound from behind. Kyle glanced back. Tyler was sitting with his head down, his profile in the dim living room light looking fragile and pitiful. The word "take care" floated through his mind again. He frowned impatiently and cursed under his breath. He closed the door again. He walked back to Tyler. It took Tyler a long moment to look up, tears nearly uncontrollable. First, he wiped his face messily with his hands. Then he signed to Kyle. "Please don't hate me. I shouldn't have thrown a tantrum. You just have to cling to me," Kyle said. "I love my brother." A ringing filled his ears. Kyle coldly took the red envelope from Tyler's hand. Tyler, tear-blinded and confused, was pulled up and hugged. Kyle had principles too. Take the money, give the hug. Let him keep crying. That way Richard couldn't say Kyle wasn't acting like a proper brother. Tyler hugged him back fiercely, rubbing his cheek against Kyle's neck, wet and warm. His lips brushed across Kyle's chin, and he stood on tiptoe to kiss him appeasingly. "Did I say you could kiss me?" The phone was wedged in the sofa cushion. That dumb mute couldn't tell the difference between a biological brother and a non-biological one. He couldn't talk, but he still managed to be noisy. Some words didn't go into Kyle's ears, but they wormed their way elsewhere. So annoying. Tyler wasn't sure if he'd done something wrong, but Kyle didn't push him away. He loved being held, wanted more. His blurry eyes kissed again, at the corner of Kyle's mouth, and he signed once more, "Please don't be angry. If I kiss you, do I have to pay extra?" Kyle looked at his clear eyes and felt a little regret. He really shouldn't have listened to Richard and taken that sign language class. Can I owe you? I'll pay you later, brother. He was greedy. He didn't just want hugs, he wanted kisses too. Tyler's lashes were wet, as if they would never dry. When he kissed, his lips brushed against Kyle's face. Kyle's Adam's apple rolled. He thought Tyler really was like a child, needing kisses and hugs to be soothed. Not sad anymore? Tyler shook his head, then nodded. That made Kyle uncomfortable instead. He got annoyed again. He pressed the back of Tyler's neck and bit down on his lip, almost vengefully. Whether it was the saltiness of tears or a hint of blood, Kyle tasted something. Tyler trembled in his arms and held him even tighter. Tyler stopped crying. That day, Kyle learned that a kiss could make someone's tears stop. Tyler became even clingier. Messages on his phone filled the hours from morning to noon to night. Whenever Tyler wasn't in school, he shared everything with Kyle. Sometimes Kyle replied. Sometimes he didn't. Is that your little brother again? The sign language teacher teased. He really sticks to you. Kyle put his phone away, finished class, and was about to leave. But he asked, are all children like this? The teacher said, of course. All of them. Kyle paused, didn't respond further. I'm going now. The day Richard took Linda away, Kyle specifically requested time off for Tyler. They said goodbye at the airport. Linda had 2 nurses with her. It won't take long, Richard said. He looked reluctant to part with Tyler but was too proud to hug a child in public. Tyler was braver than him. He hugged Richard first and showed him his phone. I'll wait for you and Mom to come back, Grandpa. Kyle saw them to the VIP passage. Before leaving, he said to Richard, contact me if anything comes up. Richard's eyes were pleased. Thank you for your hard work during this time. It's what I should do. He was about to leave, but there was still time before the flight. Richard turned. Kyle. The old man often called him that. Kyle stood straight before him. Yes. I have something to tell you. Tyler was waiting for him. When Kyle came back, Tyler ran to him, his cheeks flushed. You took so long, brother. Got impatient? Tyler shook his head and followed behind him. Let's go home then. Kyle stopped. Tyler didn't understand. He was now more used to typing than signing. What's wrong? Kyle didn't answer, but Tyler could tell something was on his mind. Get in the car. Traffic was heavy. Tyler was sleepy the whole way. When he was woken up, the car was already in the garage. He rubbed his eyes and tried to sit up, but Kyle had already opened the door. Acting as if he hadn't noticed Tyler was awake, Kyle scooped him up with both arms. Tyler decided to pretend to sleep. In the elevator, he couldn't help it. He peeked. Kyle was looking at him. His heart jumped and he quickly shut his eyes. Keep pretending, and I'll put you down. Kyle no longer minded physical contact with Tyler so much. Tyler always took an inch and turned it into a mile anyway, he'd cling no matter what. Tyler hurriedly held on tighter, pressing his body close, afraid of being abandoned. He saw Kyle smirk. He didn't know if Kyle found him amusing, but Tyler was happy too. He rubbed his head against Kyle's cheek. The housekeeper had gone grocery shopping. Kyle carried Tyler to his room. It's still early. Get some sleep. Tyler pulled on him and showed him his phone again. Today you hugged me again. So now I owe you 2 red envelopes. 2? Yes. And the kisses too. Kyle remembered. He looked down at Tyler's flushed face. You owe me more than 2 red envelopes can cover. Then 3? 3 isn't enough either. Tyler was troubled. Richard had given him only 16 red envelopes in total. Would giving them all to Kyle be enough? Do you think I take good enough care of you? Tyler nodded. Do I take good care of you? Tyler nodded. Do you like me taking care of you? Tyler nodded again. Kyle stepped forward, closer to the edge of the bed. Tyler looked up at him. Richard took good care of me too. I owe him. That's why I agreed to take care of you. Kyle paused. Today he gave me another condition. Maybe he's afraid I'll walk away. He offered me company shares in exchange for becoming your legal guardian. Tyler didn't really understand what a guardian's duties were. Like a father? But he also asked me not to get married for the next few years. Kyle looked into Tyler's clear eyes. Do you think that's worth it? Do you want to get married, brother? Kyle had never thought about it. Just like when he first picked Tyler up and told him he had no choice, Kyle didn't have a choice either. Kyle didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, he really loves you. Grandpa loves you too. Tyler asked again, a guardian means we don't have to separate, right? I won't cause you any trouble, brother. Kyle said nothing. Tyler's typing slowed. He held his phone up hesitantly, lowering his head, the tips of his ears peeking out from his dark hair. If Grandpa won't let you get married? I could be your wife instead. He wanted to stay with his brother forever. That Wednesday, Tyler came home and sat alone in the living room with his backpack. The kitchen range hood hummed. The housekeeper came out warmly and told him to sit down, that she was preparing a snack for him. Tyler looked dejected. He ate without focus. His grandfather had been gone 4 days. And he hadn't seen Kyle in 4 days. Was it because of what he'd said? Had he scared his brother? Becoming his wife. That did seem very bold. Tyler thought he might have gone too far. How could he suddenly say something like that? Would Kyle hate him? Before you came back, Mr. Walker called me. He said he's been very busy and will come in a few days, the housekeeper said. He left a phone number. He said your grandfather misses you and that you should call him sometime this evening. So he was just busy. Tyler felt a little better. He nodded vigorously. The housekeeper turned back toward the kitchen. Mr. Walker seemed to have a cold. His voice was hoarse, very nasal. If he comes by, I'll make some pear soup for him. Tyler couldn't sit still. He anxiously showed his phone to the housekeeper. My brother is sick? The weather's been changing. Catching a cold is normal. Oh, and you should wear more layers when you go out too. After an unfocused meal, the housekeeper gave Tyler a new Kinder Egg, saying she'd bought it at the grocery store. Tyler thanked her, then sat on his little balcony stool and opened it. The chocolate was very sweet. Tyler ate it slowly. The other half was a small toy gun. He assembled it and played with it in his hand. Again, he felt a pang of regret, he still hadn't opened a Kinder Egg with his brother. He couldn't help it. He sent Kyle a message. Good evening, brother. Are you still busy? The housekeeper said you have a cold. Are you feeling any better? I'm going to call Grandpa later. I miss Mom. I miss Grandpa. And I miss you so much. Please pay attention to me, angry face. Seeing Tyler standing right outside his own front door was completely unexpected. Kyle's cold-fogged brain briefly thought he was hallucinating. Tyler's legs seemed numb, he was leaning against the wall, unsteady, his face pale. Kyle took a deep breath, said nothing, and carried him inside. Tyler was already comfortable with this, hugging Kyle's neck out of habit and not letting go. The back of Kyle's neck was much hotter than Tyler's. The skin-to-skin contact made Tyler's heart race. Who told you to come? The words didn't sound harsh to Tyler. Kyle set him on the living room sofa. Tyler signed, I missed you. Not that Kyle understood, but Tyler told the truth anyway. Then he typed. The housekeeper said you were sick. I wanted to see you. He pulled various things out of his backpack. Kyle didn't look closely. He stood in front of Tyler, a little coldly, and asked, How long have you been waiting? Tyler said honestly, since morning. Kyle checked his phone. No new messages from Tyler. But Richard had texted around 3 in the morning, saying Tyler had asked for Kyle's address, probably to come find him, and asking Kyle to go pick him up, not let him go out alone. Tyler fidgeted on the sofa like it was on fire. Seeing Kyle's murderous expression, he panicked, not knowing what to say. Did I cause you trouble, brother? Kyle's face looked terrible. Still, he ordered takeout to be delivered for Tyler. Aren't you eating? Kyle had long since passed the point of hunger. He couldn't eat much now, but he forced himself. I'll take you back later, Kyle said. Tyler's eyes reddened involuntarily. I can go back by myself. Is your cold any better? Before Kyle could answer, his phone rang. Caller ID, Richard Walker. He answered in front of Tyler. Yes. His eyes fixed on Tyler. I know. He's with me. Yes. Tyler quietly held Kyle's other hand and showed him his phone. I'll leave now, brother. I bought you cold medicine and some food. He didn't know what to bring when visiting a sick person, so he'd bought what he thought was necessary. After hanging up, Kyle laughed for some reason. What? You really want to be my wife? Tyler's face turned bright red. He neither confirmed nor denied. Fine. Kyle pressed his pounding temples. He had a lot to say, but no energy left. Your grandfather said you can stay here with me. Given the chance to stay, Tyler was happier than anyone. He actively cleared the leftovers from the table. Kyle took off his jacket, now in just a white shirt with 2 buttons undone, looking lazy as he leaned against the kitchen doorframe. He'd lived here for so long, and Tyler was the first person besides himself to ever enter. Kyle rarely got sick. This lingering low fever, he'd planned to push through today and rest tomorrow. But now he had to take care of this mute kid. Oh well. At least Tyler knew how to wash dishes. Not bad. Tyler wiped the kitchen table until it sparkled. When he turned around, Kyle was gone. He looked around and found the man half lying on the sofa, asleep. He looked truly exhausted. Tyler crouched on the floor and studied Kyle's face. Kyle didn't wake up. Tyler waited. The tips of his ears, peeking out from his short hair, were red. Tyler reached out and touched them. Very hot. He needed to take medicine. Tyler gently shook him, but Kyle didn't wake. He paced anxiously a few times, then ran off. Kyle woke up to a wave of cold. The living room light, he'd replaced it just last week, was blindingly bright. The sofa was large. Tyler had somehow burrowed into his arms at some point, stripped down to just a tight short-sleeved t-shirt, his limbs wrapped around Kyle like an octopus. His half-damp, half-dry hair stuck to Kyle's neck. Very cold. What are you doing? Kyle's voice was hoarse. Tyler froze for a few seconds, then lifted his pale face from Kyle's chest. His eyes were bright, looking very happy. He fumbled around for his phone. Are you awake, brother? Do you feel any better? Under Kyle's palm was Tyler's slender waist. What are you doing? He asked again. Tyler squinted and shoved his phone between them. Now I'm an ice pack. You'll get better for sure, brother. Kyle's mind went blank. You took a cold shower? Tyler pressed closer, tightly. You can't drink ice water, brother. This works too. Who told you to do that? Kyle's tone was harsh. Tyler froze. Dad always made me do this. It works fast. He seemed to have done something wrong. Tyler was afraid to touch him now. Kyle, annoyed, threw his phone to the floor. Fortunately, there was carpet, or it would have broken. Tyler signed sorry, his body rigid, arms hanging awkwardly between them. Kyle's temples throbbed. Tyler's body had no particular smell, just bone-deep cold. Don't be angry, brother. His slender, weak fingers moved, not caring whether Kyle understood, just needing to say it. I can take care of you too. But it doesn't seem to be going well. That's okay, I have experience. Next time will be better. No, not next time. You won't get sick again. Kyle's face was tight. In that moment, he wanted to tell Tyler that neither drinking ice water nor taking cold showers lowered a fever, that was basic common sense. That irresponsible father of his had raised him like this. Good thing he died early. Tyler's damp hair brushed against Kyle's chin. Kyle sighed. Finally, he pressed his hand against the small of Tyler's back and pulled him close, their chests pressing together. Don't you like hugs? Why aren't you hugging me now? Tyler quickly burrowed into his arms. Kyle's body temperature was burning hot. Tyler felt like he'd become a log in a furnace. This time, he owed Kyle 3 red envelopes. Kyle rarely got sick. But before Richard picked him up from the orphanage, he'd run a high fever. The orphanage staff, worried Richard might choose someone else, fed him some kind of medicine. The next day, his fever broke, and he was taken away. On his first night in the Walker estate, the fever came back. He was afraid of being discovered, so he endured it all night. When he woke up, he was in the hospital. Back then, Richard still had plenty of dark hair. He looked very stern, but he said to Kyle, who was trembling with fear, that all humans get sick, that hiding it was the wrong thing to do. Kyle couldn't remember when he first learned that the Walker family had a real biological grandson. Year after year, Richard's hair turned grayer. Until one day, Richard told him to go pick up Tyler, a child who had just turned 18, 9 years younger than Kyle. He hadn't known Tyler couldn't speak. Linda had never mentioned that name. On the day he went to pick Tyler up, he never imagined that Richard's own grandson would end up in his arms, signing to him, because being sick was miserable, so he wanted his brother to get better soon. Kyle didn't know who Tyler took after. He'd already told the kid they weren't blood-related. So why was Tyler so clingy? He thought again, was it because of an affection deficit? Their chests pressed together, hearts burning hot. In Tyler's eyes, Kyle could see a small reflection of himself. They stayed like that on the sofa, hugging, like a boat drifting on a lake. Did you take a day off school to come here? Tyler flinched at the sudden question. His lashes trembled as he nodded. Kyle's expression and tone were both teasing. You won't study properly. You're going to fail your exams. Tyler's pale face turned red as if it might bleed. Embarrassed, maybe. For a long time, he didn't move. He couldn't reach his phone, so he just signed from within Kyle's arms. I'm only a few points away from passing now. I've improved since last time. His expression was very serious. He poked Kyle's chest with his fingertip and continued, You promised to teach me, brother. You never did. Such a small thing, and he still brought it up. Pitiful and petty at the same time. Kyle shifted him to keep him from falling. Tyler's forehead bumped against Kyle's shoulder. An idiot was an idiot. Why can't you speak? Kyle asked suddenly. Tyler's cold body was clearly warming up. When he moved, Kyle felt the bare skin of his waist. I was born this way. But the doctor said it was acquired, not congenital. Kyle frowned slightly. Tyler blinked, confused, and shook his head. He had no idea. Kyle seemed lost in thought. Tyler stared at the Adam's apple in front of him, mesmerized. On impulse, he poked it. The next second, he'd been caught red-handed. Mortified, he wished he could disappear. Try to make a sound, Kyle said. Try what? Tyler was straightforward. He couldn't speak. He couldn't produce sound. Kyle continued, just try. Tyler shook his head sadly, his eyes dimming. A warmth pressed against his throat, like a small fire starting. Slowly, Tyler realized it was Kyle's finger. Try. Tyler was about to fall into the vortex of Kyle's deep eyes. He half opened his mouth, struggling, his voice hoarse. But no sound came out. Kyle's gaze moved from Tyler's mouth up to his eyes. Suddenly, Tyler wanted to cry. He buried his face in Kyle's chest, feeling useless. Just like when his mother left him, and he couldn't call out to her. So useless. Look up, Kyle ordered. Tyler obeyed. His eyes were very red. He watched Kyle sigh and thought he'd disappointed him. Brother. He signed very slowly. If I could talk, would you kiss me? Kyle pretended not to understand. I don't just want hugs. He was greedy now. I want kisses too. Like that day at home. Even getting bitten a little hadn't hurt. He liked it. I want a reward. Can you give me one, brother? His eyes were full of anticipation. Kyle suddenly covered them. Tyler's long lashes brushed against his palm. Time to sleep. Fine. Tyler decided that once he got his phone back, he'd ask his brother again. Before Richard returned, Kyle took Tyler to see a psychologist once. Tyler firmly believed he wasn't sick. The doctor said his inability to speak was most likely a form of PTSD. Tyler couldn't remember ever being able to speak. He had no concept of the trauma the doctor described. But Kyle could guess. Sometimes Linda would have episodes and smash everything in the house to pieces. During the period when she first came back home, she would cry constantly, saying she was sorry, begging Richard to forgive her. Occasionally, she would go crazy and say things like, "Don't blame me. You deserved it. I deserved it too." You probably meant Tyler. She hadn't treated Tyler well. Neither had Tyler's late father. The doctor showed Kyle some cases. Those children, because they cried and made noise, were brutally beaten and abused by their parents, until their worlds turned into silent films. And silent films shouldn't define the rest of Tyler's life. Brother, do I have school tomorrow? Kyle told him to get in the car and casually shoved Tyler's phone into his pocket, then pressed down on Tyler's head with moderate force. We can go now. Tyler pouted, looking reluctant. Kyle rested his right arm on the car door, a little frustrated, and said, "You hate school that much?" Tyler blushed and explained, signing, "No. I just wanted to stay with you a little longer, brother." He always took advantage of Kyle not understanding sign language to whisper things he thought were secrets. "I like school. And I like you, brother." There he went again. Now he wasn't just clingy, he liked to act spoiled too. Kyle closed the car door without looking at him. When they got home, Tyler wanted a hug again. Kyle said, "I'm not leaving. Today, I'm watching you do your homework. I'll teach you what you get wrong." Tyler was stunned. Then he grabbed Kyle's hand and wouldn't let go. He pulled out several tests he hadn't corrected yet and handed them all to Kyle. An idiot was an idiot. This is what you call only a few points away from passing? He was still 15 points short. Tyler started quibbling, "I improved by 15 points. Kyle raised an eyebrow. "Not bad. Can you promise to improve another 15 points next time?" Tyler solemnly nodded. Kyle was laughing again. Tyler suddenly remembered the reward he still hadn't asked for. He tapped the back of Kyle's hand and showed him his phone. "If I pass next time, can I have a reward?" Here we go again. What kind of reward? The tips of his fingers on the phone screen were red. Kyle saw what he wanted. A kiss. Kyle didn't ask why the condition had changed from learning to speak to passing a test. He stared at Tyler's soft-looking ear and asked, "Can you do it?" "Of course." Afraid Kyle would say no, Tyler started to type that he would also give him red envelopes. But Kyle said, "Fine." His ear felt numb. Tyler blinked several times before looking at Kyle beside him. His brother was holding a pen, correcting his test. His other hand supported his chin. The lamp's shadow fell across half his shoulder. He wasn't looking at Tyler. Tyler thought he had misheard. "Say that again, brother." Kyle turned his face, pinched Tyler's chin. "Don't push your luck." Tyler leaned in, sticky and clingy. His phone typing sounded so loud. "Please?" Kyle required Tyler to see the psychologist once a week. Even though Tyler didn't think he was sick, he didn't know how to refuse. At the same time, he clung to Kyle and said he would definitely study hard, and then his brother couldn't forget his promise. "What promise?" Kyle teased him on purpose. "Did I say that?" Tyler would turn into a dejected cat, lowering his head and saying nothing. He wouldn't even eat properly. The only time he could hug Kyle was when Kyle checked his homework in his room. Brother is a liar. He seemed to have typed it out in advance on his phone, showing it to Kyle when no one was around. Tyler had filled out a little in the past couple of days. Hanging on Kyle, he felt heavier than before. Kyle lifted him with one arm and sat him on the chair in front of his desk, then reached out to hold back Tyler's body, which wanted to lean closer. He didn't argue about the liar thing now. Kyle bent down and questioned him with a bit of seriousness. "Don't you think you hug me too often now?" He pinched Tyler's cheeks. "Did I give you permission?" Tyler's face flushed, whether from the pinch or from heat, he didn't know. He signed, "I remember everything." Kyle didn't understand that sign. "What does that mean?" Tyler held his phone tightly, his eyes wet. He looked at Kyle without speaking. Kyle let him go. Tyler reached out with both hands and grabbed Kyle's right hand. His phone, pressed against the skin, felt warm. Like he was protecting some little secret. "You're so smart, brother. How could you not know?" How would Kyle know? Tyler asked him, "Are you leaving soon?" "Yeah. I still want a hug." "No, just once. The last time." Then he revised it. "The last time for today." Hope and anticipation turned into water in his eyes, brimming over. The red marks from being pinched were still vivid on his cheeks. Kyle thought to himself, "I didn't even pinch that hard." "Come here." Tyler stood up. The moment he reached his arms out, Kyle carefully studied his face. He noticed Tyler had not only gained weight but also grown taller. "Looks like I'm not doing too badly as a caretaker." He stared at Tyler's innocent face. "Shouldn't Richard reward me handsomely?" Tyler's breathing was uneven. He signed, "What reward do you want, brother?" Then added, "Whatever you want of brother, Grandpa will definitely give it to you." They were pressed so close together, heart to heart. Kyle wrapped both arms around Tyler's waist, about to sit him on the desk. He had to leave. Tyler immediately hugged his neck and kissed his ear. When their eyes met, a red flush spread all the way down to Tyler's neck. He liked to stare at Kyle with those wet eyes. Goodbye, brother. Since you already asked for your reward in advance, there won't be one next time. Kyle teased him again. Tyler panicked. Frantically, he explained. That was me being forward. It's different. You can't do that. I don't care. Kyle let him go, making a move to leave, shrugging his shoulders. You already kissed me anyway. Tyler looked like he was about to cry. But he couldn't speak. His hands were trembling too. In the end, he could only say, okay. That's fine too. It was his own greed that led to this. Tyler was an insatiable, bad person. His hands gripped the edge of the desk, his fingertips white. Kyle stood between his legs, looking at his pale nose tip. For a moment, he felt like he might have teased too much. Bullying someone smaller than him wasn't as satisfying as having them hand him money. But it was still amusing. Look up. Tyler froze, bewildered. Kyle very lightly touched his forehead. It was hard to tell if it was a kiss. Was it a kiss with his hand? Or his mouth? Tyler liked it either way. He wanted to ask if that counted as a kiss, would he still get one next time when he passed his test? But he didn't get the chance. Kyle took a phone call and had to leave. Next week, Richard comes back. I'll take you to see him then. Kyle's Adam's apple rolled as he stepped back from between Tyler's legs. He watched Tyler nod. I'm going. Tyler nodded again, reaching out to hook his finger around Kyle's. I'll wait for you to pick me up, brother. After Kyle left, Tyler kept touching his forehead, dazed. Finally, blushing, he burrowed under the covers. Linda's condition seemed to be improving. She had more lucid moments than before. Tyler was very happy. On his first day back at the Walker estate, he crouched beside Linda's wheelchair, holding a flower he'd picked up, trying to cheer her up. Who are you? She asked again. Tyler placed the flower on her blanket-covered lap and waved his hand. She didn't know what that meant. Linda's smile was still weak. She quickly grew tired, and the nurse wheeled her back inside. Counting on his fingers, the day Kyle had driven him to the Walkers had been exactly on the weekend. That was 3 days ago. That day in the car, Tyler had typed a lot on his phone. Even though he couldn't speak, he chattered on. He asked Kyle how long he would stay at his grandfather's this time. Kyle rubbed the steering wheel, thinking, his long fingers tapping. Tyler's heart pounded hard. Don't know, Kyle said. Depends on Richard's mood. No matter how long, Tyler would always say the same thing, I'll wait for you to come pick me up, brother. Like a child. Richard noticed Tyler had little enthusiasm when he came home from school every day. He asked if Tyler was unhappy. He took Tyler to the study and then pressed 2 red envelopes into his hand. Grandpa, I don't want money. This time, Tyler was reluctant to accept. You've been very good lately. This is a reward. Richard's white hair was dazzling to Tyler. Has your brother been taking you to the doctor? The doctor said there's a possibility you might still learn to speak. Tyler was stunned. He typed for Richard. Something like that. Grandpa, are you tired? You should go to bed early today. Richard paused. No one in this empty house paid attention to an old man's feelings. You're such a good child. Have you suffered a lot? Richard's eyes were deep as he looked at Tyler. Not at all. Richard ruffled his hair, then mentioned Kyle. When he first came, he was a lot like you. He kept everything inside. He's very smart. Very competitive. Tyler agreed with that. His brother was truly worthy of the title Smart Egg. If Linda leaves me, Richard's expression suddenly became distant, his voice unsteady. There's still you, Tyler didn't understand. He only said to Richard, Mom will be healthy and safe. That afternoon, he saw Kyle again. Inside Tyler's backpack was a test with a score of 60. Kyle walked out of Richard's study and stood at the top of the stairs. Tyler didn't say a word, just ran up with his backpack and pulled Kyle into his room. That dark blue backpack was even more worn than Kyle remembered. He silently closed the bedroom door and watched Tyler excitedly pull out the test. The bright red ink stood out against Tyler's flushed face. His eyes were like stars in the night sky. Oh, not bad at all. Kyle raised an eyebrow and praised him without being stingy. Tyler couldn't wait for his reward. He leaned his face forward. Every visible patch of skin was flushed red, spreading all the way down into his pale neck. Kyle pretended not to understand. What's this? My reward. The reward you promised, brother? Did I say that? When? Tyler's fingernails tapped crisply against the screen. He bit his lip, becoming a little urgent. You said if I passed my test, you'd give me a kiss. Had he misheard? Because of his greed last time, was his reward gone? Then can I trade a red envelope for a hug? Or 3? How many did Richard give you this time? Kyle stood behind Tyler, watching him open his desk drawer. Tyler signed the number 3. Give them all to me? Kyle's voice was very low, almost pressed against Tyler's soft ear. He used his hand to stop Tyler's arm. The red envelope between Tyler's fingers fell back into the drawer. He signed to Kyle. Because I'm greedy, you're punishing me, aren't you, brother? I'm sorry. I accept the punishment. He turned halfway around from the desk with difficulty, feeling Kyle's warm breath. You're always so busy. It's so hard to see. You. He said, I miss you so much. Clingy. Pitiful. And he liked to act spoiled. For a moment, Kyle wondered, if Richard had sent someone else to pick Tyler up, would this mute kid cling to that person the same way? Not that he was overthinking it, just sudden curiosity. But he'd never dwelled on things that never happened. And he wouldn't start now. As for the reward Tyler wanted, he would give it. He just hadn't expected it so soon. He'd thought an idiot passing a test would take a long time. Tyler, seeing no sign that Kyle would take the red envelopes, felt disappointment wash over him. He pushed the drawer shut with his hip. He wanted to ask Kyle if there would be any more rewards in the future. He even regretted being so greedy. But Kyle's hand moved from his arm to the back of his neck. In the infinite closeness, Tyler saw Kyle's ink-black pupils. It was a kiss lighter than any before. Tyler felt like a soft strand of wool had brushed against him. Gone in an instant. Tyler didn't dare lean forward. After a moment, he just sat there like a dazed, abandoned animal. He really was too greedy. A bad habit. He needed to fix it. But then Kyle kissed him a second time. This one was wet, lingering, carrying an unbearable dry heat that made Tyler's legs feel weak. When Kyle pulled back, he covered Tyler's eyes with his hand, his jaw tight, his vocal cords strained. Don't open your eyes. Tyler's lips, now glistening, were bitten into his mouth. Silently, he mouthed, okay. Kyle turned Tyler around in his arms. The bedroom door had somehow cracked open. He frowned. Unless he remembered wrong, he had closed it. Tyler received the reward he had been dreaming of. Before dinner, he kissed the tips of Kyle's fingers very lightly and signed once more, he loved his brother the most. Love. Rather than asking Tyler if he even knew what love meant, Kyle thought it better to ask if he could pass his next test. Tyler's face turned bright red. Having gotten what he wanted, his sense of propriety returned. Greed made people hateful. Now he had to be a good child. Linda didn't come down for dinner. Richard's cane rested against the table. Silently, he picked up a rib and put it on Tyler's plate. Tyler smiled at him, his eyes curving. His phone was in his pocket, he wanted to get it, but Richard shook his head and said, just use sign language. Don't go to the trouble. Unexpectedly, Richard didn't smile much tonight. He looked somewhat serious. Tyler didn't think much of it. Richard glanced meaningfully toward Kyle on the other side. How's the sign language class going? Can you understand him yet? Tyler looked confused, as if he hadn't heard clearly. Then he heard Kyle give a soft Immediately, the flush that had barely receded spread across his face again. When had he learned? His brother could understand? His chopsticks felt unsteady. Richard asked what he had wanted to say just now. Tyler licked his lips, stammered out a thank you. Kyle relayed it to Richard. Oh, you're being polite with me. Tyler bit his chopsticks, feeling a slow-building embarrassment. He was humiliated thinking about all the things he'd said before, taking advantage of Kyle not understanding sign language. His brother had understood everything. He was so smart. He must have learned it all. As Tyler ate with his head down, Richard suddenly turned the conversation to Kyle. He asked if Kyle had anyone he liked recently. Tyler went stiff, his ears perking up. No, Kyle said. Don't just think about work all day. You should find someone when it's time. The words were vague. Kyle set his chopsticks down on the table. His gaze fell on Tyler's ears, peeking out from his hair, light, weightless. How could Kyle not understand? He had always been smart. From demanding that he not get married, to now suggesting he should find someone. It all stemmed from that cracked open bedroom door. I know. Tyler couldn't swallow anymore. Before 8 that evening, Kyle came out of Richard's study and prepared to leave. Tyler stepped on his shadow as he walked to the car by the gate. He took a breath, ready. You understood me. Why didn't you tell me? The slight smile at the corner of Kyle's mouth looked reluctant, even carrying a faint reproach. I really am an idiot. I didn't even notice. Kyle's Adam's apple rolled. He only said, it's late. Go back inside. Tyler grew stubborn. Just a little. Not much. You said you don't have anyone you like. So. You heard him. Richard wants me to find someone. That idea was too foreign to Tyler. Could you just randomly find a person who didn't exist? But the question he wanted to ask most was, don't you like me, brother? Kyle's lips curved into a faint smile. Your grandfather meant I need to find a wife. Tyler suddenly remembered how shamelessly he had once said he could be his brother's wife. I'm sorry. He apologized again. His pale skin, under the light stretching outside, looked as if it had been gilded. What are you sorry for? Kyle asked. You're smart. How could you not know? Tyler's hands began to tremble. Grandfather wanted his brother to find someone he liked. That someone would not be Tyler. Can I still wait for you to pick me up and take me home? Kyle felt that he owed the Walker family for life. Being a grandson for Richard. Being a nanny for Tyler. He never made promises he couldn't keep. But facing Tyler's clear eyes today, he couldn't be cruel. Maybe because of the test Tyler had worked so hard to pass. Or maybe because of that lingering, wet, dependent kiss. Probably. Tyler smiled brightly. But he knew Kyle was lying. He wouldn't wait for Kyle to come pick him up. But he didn't want to call his brother a liar. He still loved his brother very much. A long time passed without Tyler seeing Kyle. He counted on his fingers. It had been since he was brought back here. This was the longest. What was his brother doing? Was he dating? Tyler couldn't stop thinking about it. His heart ached so much he didn't know what to do. Richard took him to the doctor every week like clockwork. Tyler cooperated fully. Sometimes he would ask on his own, could he ever learn to speak? The doctor said it was possible. Then he asked when. The doctor couldn't give a specific time. Tyler was very disappointed. Brother, I've been going to the doctor. I've been listening in class. Today when I came home from school, I played chess with Grandpa. I lost again. Mom seems a little better. Yesterday we sat in the sun together. She seemed in a good mood. Are you very busy, brother? If I'm bothering you, I'm very sorry, angry face, no reply. After a few more days, Tyler got sick again. Just some random autumn illness, fever and a cough that wouldn't go away. Richard said that if he didn't get better soon, they would take him to the hospital. Tyler shook his head. He didn't want to go. He slept most of the time. His dreams were chaotic. Sometimes he dreamed of his brother, sometimes of his mother. When he woke up, he wasn't sure where he was. But that night, the person in his dream was so real that he thought the door to his bedroom had opened. He heard nothing. He couldn't speak. But his hearing had always been very good. Footsteps. He struggled to open his eyes. The lamp was on. Bright white light poured into his pupils, making him flinch. He heard someone sigh, and then the main light was turned off, leaving only the soft yellow bedside lamp. Tyler. He knew that voice. He would never mistake it. Brother? He reached for his phone. It wasn't there. He had to sign. I was dreaming about you. He signed slowly, his hands trembling from the fever. In the dream, you wouldn't hug me. I was so sad. Kyle sat down on the edge of his bed. The temperature difference between their bodies was huge. Kyle's hand, pressing on Tyler's forehead, felt cool and comfortable. You still have a fever. I had a fever earlier too. You hugged me then. He had been running a high fever. He didn't know if Kyle had come specially. Maybe it was a dream again. But it was too real. Unreal. But since it was a dream, Tyler naturally wanted a hug. Sunlight refracted through the glass. Tyler squinted and saw a rainbow. He hugged the Kyle in his dream tightly and began to sign voiceless accusations, "Brother is a liar." But he couldn't bear it. He started being whiny instead. "Kiss me." Kyle stood by his bed, his dark, deep eyes looking down. Tyler didn't know what he was thinking. He only felt that his brother seemed to have lost a little weight. Tears started falling from somewhere. His mind was hazy. He said to Kyle, "You still owe me a reward, brother." Kyle wrapped an arm around his waist and pulled him into his lap like a child. Tyler smelled of medicine, faint, not pleasant. But his body temperature, curled against Kyle, had a dry heat that sunlight seemed to pierce through. What reward? He didn't remember. Tyler lifted his face from Kyle's neck. Because of the illness, he had grown almost gaunt. The tip of his nose was red. He half opened his mouth, showing the tender pink of his tongue inside. If Kyle hadn't known he was mute, he would have thought Tyler was about to speak. "Fine." Kyle rubbed his head. "Go to sleep." Tyler refused. If he slept inside the dream, he wouldn't see Kyle again afterward. He was laid back on the bed. Unwilling, he tried to sit up, but Kyle pressed his shoulder down. "Don't move." Tyler was too thin. Kyle thought to himself, he had actually filled out a little before. One illness and it was all gone. He pulled the blanket over Tyler. Tyler struggled to reach out a hand to pull him back. "I'm not leaving." Kyle's tone was helpless. He tucked Tyler's hand back under the blanket. Tyler shook his head, his eyes red. Finally, he slowly let go. Maybe he was trying to be a good, obedient child. He couldn't cling. His dry lips had flakes of dead skin, no moisture. Kyle was about to get him some water. As he turned, he heard rustling behind him, followed by a strange, hoarse voice. It sounded more like a pained moan. Kyle froze completely. After a long moment, he turned his head to look at the person on the bed. Tyler didn't seem to realize he had just made a sound. He signed with difficulty, "I went to the doctor. But I still can't speak." "Are you leaving, brother?" "I don't get a reward." Kyle remembered their original agreement. If Tyler could speak, he could get a kiss. But they had already kissed many times. Whether because he was soothing someone or because it was a reward. What Tyler wanted, Kyle had actually already given. The silence after the pause made Tyler feel exhausted. He slowly lay back down on the bed, feeling that this dream wasn't perfect at all. Until he was lifted again, pressed against warmth and a heartbeat. He reached out both arms and burrowed into the person's embrace. Like a bird seeking warmth on a winter day. He seemed to fall asleep again. Or maybe not. Half conscious, he saw his old, worn dark blue backpack on the nightstand. Kyle saw it too. "I told you to change it, but you wouldn't." He said, "Now Richard really thinks I've been mistreating you." "How could that be?" Tyler sat up from his brother's chest and shook his head very seriously. "Grandpa never said that. He told me." "How could you have heard? When did he say it?" Kyle laughed. "Not telling you. When you get home, change that backpack." Tyler burrowed back into his chest like a cat and shook his head in refusal. He didn't know why he was so attached to that old backpack. Maybe as he had said, he couldn't bear to throw it away. Kyle didn't feel like arguing. You couldn't reason with a stubborn person. Tyler kissed Kyle's Adam's apple, then his chin, but not his lips. Kyle pressed Tyler's head down and kissed him. Both of them breathed heavily. When they separated, Tyler knelt on the bed and raised his pale hand. "Because this backpack has been with me for so long. It would be a shame to change it. If it leaves me, it will be sad too." His eyes were very bright. He crawled on his knees around behind Kyle, wrapped both arms around his neck, and pressed his entire upper body against Kyle's back. He was still smiling. "Now I've become your backpack, brother," he said. "I hope you never throw me away." Tyler regretted it. He shouldn't have said that. Because this dream was perfect. Richard said Tyler was sick. Being sick wasn't a big deal. And it was at the Walker estate. Kyle didn't think Tyler would be mistreated. But he still wanted to go see. Tyler is only 18, Richard said to him in the study. The old man's well-used cane leaned against the table. Kyle watched Richard brew himself a pot of tea. His hair was completely white now, hardly a single black strand left. You're smart. You know why I'm like this. Kyle lowered his eyes and said softly, I'm sorry. The hand holding the teacup paused. Richard took a deep breath, then sighed, as if after countless deliberations he had finally made a choice. Linda's illness won't get better. His hand trembled slightly, and a little tea spilled from the pot. I always said I regret it. I was too strict with her. It made her rebellious. The way she is today, I'm not without blame. His breathing was heavy. After a long moment, he said, How much longer can I stay with Tyler? You'll live to be 100, Kyle said. Richard froze, then laughed. You've learned a sweet tongue from Tyler. He set the teapot aside, didn't drink. He leaned back in his chair and looked deeply at Kyle, the child he had raised with his own hands. I was going to set up a trust fund for Tyler. But then I thought better to give him to you. His gaze was sharp. Kyle hadn't felt this kind of pressure in a long time. He heard Richard laugh self-mockingly. I controlled Linda her whole life. Most of the time, she hated me. I don't want Tyler to be the same. He won't, Kyle interrupted. He's a good kid. When Tyler was sick and asked if he had done something wrong, every defense in Richard's heart had crumbled. The one who had done wrong wasn't Tyler. It was Richard himself. How many 18-year periods did a person have in a lifetime? He had given Tyler 13 red envelopes left. He had to give them year by year. When he gets better, take him home. To the home he wants. Kyle said in a low voice, This is his home. Fine. You just like bullying an old man who doesn't understand anything. Kyle couldn't find a defense. Richard asked again, Kyle, be honest with me. When I asked you to take care of Tyler, did you resent it? No, he answered very firmly. It was the truth. Resentful or not, he had done it. Picked Tyler up. Cared for him when he was sick. Learned sign language. He was like Tyler, both walkers, no blood relation but sharing the same last name. If Richard now gave Tyler to someone else to care for, that might actually make him resentful. Some possessive tendencies couldn't be explained. But Kyle thought about it carefully. It wasn't unexplainable. Since he and Tyler already shared a last name, then Tyler sharing something else with him was only fair. To be fair, Kyle would share too. Tyler had wanted to be his backpack. There was no reason to throw it away just because it got heavy when filled. He wasn't the only one who couldn't bear to let go. After Tyler fully recovered from his illness, he remained a little dazed about that dream. Sometimes when he pushed Linda on her walks, he would talk to her, in sign language. That was such a strange dream. I wish I could dream it again. He really didn't want it to end. Linda's face was weak. She looked at him a little childishly. I told you, I don't understand. Tyler's ears turned red with embarrassment. He picked a flower for her and placed it on the thin blanket covering Linda's knees. He pushed his mother back inside. Time for a snack with her. The housekeeper made very good pastries. He and Linda shared. Richard told him that tomorrow Kyle would come to pick him up. Tyler stood frozen like a block of wood, forgetting to swallow the food in his mouth. That happy? Richard sounded a little displeased. It's not like you haven't seen him. Seen him? It had clearly been so long since they'd seen each other. The last time was in a dream. Tyler missed him so much it was crushing him. He waited all night. Tyler asked on his phone, Brother, are you dating? You're not, right? You're not. That's why you're coming to pick me up. I miss you so much. Getting sick really works. Works how? Probably because every time he got sick, he got to see Kyle. In the morning, Kyle came to pick him up. The weather was unusual, thick, drizzling rain. After Tyler finished packing his things, he saw Kyle in the living room wearing a black jacket. His eyes suddenly stung fiercely. He ran downstairs and wanted to hug him, but Kyle quietly pulled him away. Disappointed, Tyler lowered his head. Kyle leaned close to his ear and said helplessly, We'll hug outside. Only then did Tyler cheer up. Richard gave a few instructions, come back for a meal when you have time. Kyle agreed. The car was parked in the courtyard. Kyle held an umbrella and walked Tyler to the car. Tyler couldn't hold back. He hugged Kyle under the umbrella, no matter what. Rainwater rolled off the umbrella and soaked Tyler's pant legs. Helpless, Kyle could only exchange a kiss for Tyler getting into the car. Tyler, blushing, curled up in the back seat. His eyes showed traces of being wet by the rain. Say goodbye to your grandfather. Tyler suddenly realized he hadn't said goodbye. Annoyed at his own rudeness, he hurriedly rolled down the car window and waved at Richard, who was still inside. The dense drizzle blew into his face and lips. He stuck out his tongue and licked. Kyle closed the window. Tyler had so much he wanted to say, but nothing mattered more than going home with Kyle right now. Brother, why does the rain taste sour? He was very curious. If it's sour, you still licked it. Aren't you afraid of ruining your tongue? Tyler quickly covered his mouth. Kyle saw his frightened expression in the rearview mirror. He thought to himself, so what if it's ruined? He was going to stay with Tyler anyway. What did it matter?